Hey guys, it's Adam. I want to take a moment and personally thank you for listening to our shows, for downloading our shows, and for sharing them with your friends. With your guys' support, we just moved the Twisted 10 into the threshold of the top 100 comedy shows in iTunes. It made it to number 99, granted, just barely crept in there. However, that's still monumental for us. Out of the tens of thousands of podcasts that are out there, that's one of the most difficult categories to breach into. Thank you very, very much for helping us to get there. If you haven't already done so, please go give us a 5-star rating and give us a review, a short little 1-line, 2-line review, letting us know that you enjoy the show. iTunes reviews are like podcast currency. It legitifies the show, it allows us to get better guests, and it allows our sponsors to really see that we're reaching the listeners that are out there. If you haven't done so yet, please go do it. We would greatly appreciate it. We've got a ton on the horizon from Dichotomy Media, a lot more on our YouTube channel, more Get Out Penny cartoons, all sorts of stuff. So please help us by giving us that 5-star rating and a little review. Thank you very much and enjoy the show.
TMRS 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to the Twisted 10, bringing you original and unique, host-created top 10 lists, recorded live in world-famous Cocoa Beach, Florida, with hosts Tach Van Sickle and Adam Poston.
And welcome to another episode. You're all right. Welcome to another episode of the Twisted 10. I'm Adam. I'm not one of your hosts, but I am one of your regular hosts of the show. But I'm not hosting this week. Jay has been replaced. Tach has been replaced.
Holy shit, is this how you fire me? Is this how you do it?
This is it.
Fuck, man, what about a little bit of tact?
Jay, we have to talk. Speaking of tact, Tach
Tact has been replaced by Cat.
by a pussy.
Yep.
There's a pussy in his seat right now. So, Tach, she's upstaging you. Sitting over on the lady chase.
Hi, this is Andrea Joy, and I am not one of your hosts.
No.
And I'm Jay Alvarez. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. Hopefully I'm here at the end of the episode. Obviously not another non-host today.
You just hosted last week, though. You didn't?
Yeah, and apparently I'm getting fired for it. Shit.
No, your
good
name's
episode.
on all the stuff, so we can't fire you until we find another Jay Alvarez.
When you come in and see whiteout on the banner,
God damn
then
it.
you might want to be a little bit worried.
This is why our branding never works out to my favor. Fuck.
But we don't have Skype up today. We actually have a guest in studio with us,
Oh, shit. I thought
Real
Skype started
life.
hologramming.
all the way over from, where about do you broadcast in Orlando? Where's
Maitland.
Maitland?
Yeah.
Chris Crespo with Cinema Crespodiso
Yes,
Podcast.
yes.
I still have to say, I hate that you can pronounce that, but pseudonym gives you fucking problems.
Yeah, that's true.
And Crespodiso is a weird word, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I definitely regret that name now, 4 years later.
Not to be confused with Marcus Crespo, who
Not my brother.
not your brother.
Wait, shut the fuck up. Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh, sorry.
All Crespos aren't related. Yeah.
You guys have both done visits on Tom and Dan,
Yes.
and Tom and Dan have even made a joke about that in the past, that you guys had similar last
Well,
names.
because when Marcus was on, Tom was just like, so you're, we've had your brother in here. It's funny that he does movies, you do comedy. And Marcus was just like laughing and yep, going along with it. And then Ross stepped in and was like, they're not brothers. They've never even met. They don't even know each other. And it's true, we actually haven't met face to face, which is pretty funny. I'm intending on having him on the show eventually. One day.
That'd be a confusing show.
That'll be Crespo and Crespo.
Yes.
Here's Mark. Yeah, we don't know each other, but he's a Crespo. Yeah.
He's a funny dude. So he came out and did a Bug Nutty out here, what is Ray Brito's gig once every third Thursday of the month at Bug Nutty Brewery. And Marcus Crespo was the headliner that night, and I didn't actually know he was going to headline. I just went up there to support our boy. And sure enough, there's Marcus Crespo wearing a giant Tom and Dan shirt.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I know you. I've listened to you. I know who you are. I'm Adam. I know you don't know me, but, it was cool. It was cool to meet him.
That is cool. Yeah, yeah.
And then I think I asked him, I said, you're Marcus Crespo. You have Cinema Crespodiso. He's like, no.
Yeah, I wonder how often he gets that. See, now I might have to have him on the show just to ask him how often he's asked about Crespodiso.
Yeah.
I could use the ego boost. Like, you get mistaken for my stuff a lot. That's good. Yeah.
So you guys...
I want to be the dominant Crespo in town.
You guys are a good 280 or shows in?
Technically we just did 230, but with bonus episodes, episodes. We have done about 390. We're around 400 now with bonus episodes.
How often do you guys release the show?
We do a new show technically it's supposed to be Mondays, but I put them out, quote, early on Sunday when we record them. So every Sunday evening there's a new show, and then we put out a bonus episode, usually during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Nice.
I make sure to call them bonus episodes so that if one doesn't come out, or if it doesn't come out on a certain day, no one can give me shit about it, because it's like, look, it's a bonus episode. You're not supposed to be getting these anyway. Just don't get mad at me because it came out on Thursday and not Tuesday, stuff like that. So yeah.
What is Cinema Crespodiso for our listeners who don't know?
It is mostly a movie talk show. It's actually a spin-off of a radio show, SBK Live, because I started there.
Yep.
And
speaking of SBK, he's doing much better now, right, with his new kidney?
yes, he is. He's doing pretty great, as far as you can be doing with the current American healthcare system the way it is. Absolutely.
So he's not dead. So that's
He's not dead. He got himself a third kidney. Not only does he get himself a third kidney, it's a nice white kidney, and he definitely appreciates that for sure. It's going to get him through a lot more doors and more. His credit went up like 20 points immediately. No, but he's doing well, and he posts about it every day. He's keeping his website up, kidneyforkevin.com, and people can check out his whole journey thing. And it's actually one of the few times where I found something like that genuinely inspiring, probably because I know the guy. He's a really good friend of mine. So to see him struggle, go through so much hard stuff, and then really persevere, change his lifestyle in many ways to be healthier, to get the donation, and now he's living what he calls his second life. And it's really super cool that he's doing that. And he's working on his comeback. Hopefully that SBK Live podcast will come back and all that stuff very soon. But my show, Cinema Crespodiso, was born when theirs was unjustly canceled from Real Radio in the evening.
Yep.
Not even because of ratings, but because of political stuff.
Drama,
backstage stuff, right? So the show's canceled. People are like, what are you going to do? You're going to go to another show? How are you going to hear Chris Crespo? And I was like, oh, I guess a podcast is the way to go. So a month and a half later, Cinema Crespodiso was born, January 2013. Been doing it for 4 years ever since. And it is a movie show, but I try to expand it. It's not just movies. It's TV, pop culture, entertainment, and then we go off the rails and talk about whatever we feel like talking about.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's also it's very similar to a couple of our shows. It's very tangented. You guys get on these. You guys go down these rabbit holes and get deep into these rabbit holes.
We do, and then sometimes we find our way back, and sometimes we're like, what were we talking about? I don't know. What's the next topic? Let's move on, because life's too short to get bogged down in the details,
That's awesome.
But it's a fun show. We have a lot of fun. People have fun doing it, and people can listen to it on chriscrespo.com. It's on iTunes, Stitcher Radio. Cinema Crespodiso is a weird name. It's a very pretentious name. I got it from the movie Cinema Paradiso, which is it won the best foreign picture Oscar in 1988. It's an Italian film, and it's a movie about the love of movies. So I figured it was either gonna be that or Beyond Crespo Dome. I should have gone with Beyond Crespo Dome, or probably the Chris Crespo Show. But anyway,
Beyond Crespo Dome. That sounds.
Yeah.
Welcome to Crespo Dome, bitch.
Yeah, welcome.
That's the second half. The second half is the Crespo Dome. Yeah, 2 men enter and 2 men leave, because it's a very genial place. We're all very chill. We're just hanging out, talking movies. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So for the listeners that are joining us brand new from Cinema Crespodiso, thank you for joining us. The Twisted 10 is a top 10 list podcast. It's each week, one of the regular hosts, or like in this case with Chris coming into the studio, is a guest hosted episode where the guest or the host brings their own top 10 list. And it can be from anything. It could be top 10 movies, top 10 sexual fetishes, top 10 best or worst infomercial products. I mean, the range is all over the place. We've had some fabulous guests in the past. Hopefully tonight will be good too.
Yes,
Chris. I don't know.
We'll see. I don't know.
But shit, you fire me during the intro and then you berate the guest? God damn, man. Wow. This is why we need an HR department.
We is the HR department. And
that's horrifying.
And then the emails get lost. I'm my own HR department. I know that goes, man. It's the only way to do it.
But yeah, we tear apart the list, and we have some fun while we're doing it.
Yes.
And yeah, that's about it.
And it's a good show. I've listened to a couple because you recommend, if you're going to host a show, at least listen to a couple. Exactly. Which I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It's one thing. I have guests on. I don't expect my guests to listen to the show because, I can guide you through it.
Sure.
But if you're asking someone to run the whole thing, please listen to it to get an idea of the flow. So I listened to the Dan Cummins one.
Nice.
Very cool. All the Western, the Outlaws. I love Westerns anyway, and Old West culture. So that's very cool. I really like the one she Skyped in. What was that, Congressional podcast?
Jen Briney.
Yeah. I like that she started with all the Puerto Rico stuff, and she got into all that, and the original governor. And I was like, man, you guys could have done an entire hour on just that.
Yeah,
that was very cool. That was a good episode. I enjoyed that one as well. So you guys do a good job out here.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's unique. When we first came up with the idea of doing it with, there was nobody else that had this, and it was a gamble.
Yeah.
Like, especially when we started introducing guest hosts to completely take over the show, because that's very dangerous. You could have some flops. And luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had any, anything that's come up that we've had to can the episode or anything like that.
Really? So you haven't done one yet where you've been like, oh, that was not good, or even like halfway through, you're like, oh, we need to adjust this somehow. Or...
Guest hosted, no. We've had one that we shit canned internally.
Oh, okay.
Just because it was
sure, yeah, that happens.
It's bad when the guest hosts have a better track record than the actual hosts.
Yes, it is.
So far, we're batting 1,000 with the guests.
That's fine. Oh, okay, that's good to know. Well, we'll see. Let's put that to the test tonight.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so this is the point. Basically, we turn the keys over to you, and you run the rest of the show.
All right.
The only interaction that we ever ask for is after you're like, if you're about to announce number 10, you say number 10, and then you give us a chance to add some funny little...
Let everyone do your thing.
Yeah.
I would like you guys to speak up and help me out as much as possible, as a matter of fact. Cinema Crespodiso, I very rarely do it alone. I think I've only done 2 episodes by myself, and I feel more comfortable interacting with people. So even as a host, I want a lot of...
Oh, yeah, you'll hear it. We'll have some banter going back.
Please do.
It's hard to shut us up.
That's what,
yes,
that's what podcasting is. That's why we all have microphones. That's why we're not sharing a microphone. All right, well, top 10 list. I know you've done a few movies once. I figured I might as well do a movie one because that's my thing.
That's your theme,
Crespodiso, right? You just did one last week too, didn't you? With,
I did top 10 movies based on true stories that are lying to you.
That's a good one. That's a really good topic. And then I saw, I was like, oh no, but I was like, all right, it's still pretty different from what I'm doing. My top 10 list, and you also said you could do with a twist, right?
You can add a twist.
I had a twist. My top 10 list is top 10 badass filmmakers. All right, so it's filmmakers. So I feel like for different reasons, I would consider a badass, whether it be physical, intellectual, perseverance, or whatever. And then the twist is, at one point, one of the facts that I present on one of these filmmakers is an outlandish conspiracy theory that I just happen to love.
Really?
Yes. So when you think you hear the conspiracy theory, feel free to pop up and call me on it right away.
All right.
But like, yeah, this is it right here, and we'll start talking about it. But
if not, at the end of the episode, can you reveal which one it is?
Absolutely, yeah,
right,
sure.
Cool,
but
cool,
I'm pretty sure.
So what you're saying is Quentin Tarantino is Jon Snow's real father.
Yes. Oh, yes. My notes. Actually, Tarantino not even on the list. He's not even on the list. He worked at a video store. There's nothing badass about that. All right, well, let's go ahead and start top 10 badass filmmakers. And obviously, this list is very subjective.
Sure.
So if people they have opinions or they want to come at me with whatever, you can hit me up on Twitter at @GoFuckYourself. I don't want to hear your opinions.
I like that.
You're the one who stole that handle. Damn it.
Yeah. And then Twitter, man, they don't like that handle at all. So I'm going to do number 10.
Number 10.
George Miller. Does that name sound familiar to you? I'm going to ask you for everyone. Does the name George Miller
I'll tell you,
familiar?
the guy in here that was going to know a lot of these movie things is going to be Jay.
Yeah.
If Tach was here instead of replaced with the pussy, he would get a lot of the stuff too.
Okay.
So
all right.
I don't
So look in this
recognize it.
direction more when I ask. So you know the name George Miller.
No, George Miller, no.
George Miller is an Australian fella. George Miller was born March 3rd, 1945 in Brisbane, Queensland.
Good day, mate.
In Australia. Good day, mate. He's known for
Barbie.
creating the Mad Max series, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
Jesus
Very
Christ. Yeah, I'm like, I know George Miller. I just can't put a pin on it.
And he's actually Dr. George Miller. The reason why I consider him a badass filmmaker is because he studied medicine at the University of New South Wales. This was like in the late 60s going through the 70s. And in his final year was in medical school in 1971. Him and his brother started experimenting with short films and stuff. And throughout the 70s, he was working in emergency rooms and as a doctor and doing a lot of stuff. But on the side, he was interested in films and like doing experimental films and working on crews and stuff, just getting experience. But then what happened was over the years throughout the 70s working in Australia, and remember, just like in America, Australia was the same way. Your drunk driving laws were much more lax. Your driving laws, period, were much more lax. The roads were just crazier. People died much more in car accidents. Cars were much less safe, so accidents were more brutal, right? So he saw a lot of car crash violence coming into his ER.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense now, considering knowing what movie he did later.
Yes, exactly. His first movie, 1979, was Mad Max, based on all the gruesome stuff that he saw, and he channeled all that horror into a really crazy, like, it is post-apocalyptic, but it's like right on the edge of the apocalypse.
Sure.
It's like 2018 is the year it's set in, and then he made a whole series, all 4 movies, and the fourth one, Mad Max Fury Road, that came out just a couple of years ago, is the best one of all four of them, which is crazy because he was like 70 years old when he directed it.
Damn.
And they went out into the desert in Tunisia for 9 months, and they were like, he was driving the crew and the actors crazy because they would literally get in their cars and then they would just start driving into nothingness, out into the desert for miles where you can't see anything. And he would just be like, go, drive. And he would have him do all this action. No one knows what's going on. The cinematographer, the guy working the camera, he's like, I don't know where to point the camera. He's just like, it's a digital camera and there's a red dot in the middle that only the cinematographer can see. And George Miller is yelling, put the dot on her nose. Talking about Charlize Theron. So he's just like, put that dot where George Miller said. When the movie was said and done, he looked at the film. He's like, oh my God, this movie is brilliant. I had no idea what I was making. I was relying on this guy and his genius. Tom Hardy played Mad Max. He was bitching the whole time. He was a pain in the ass. He was like, there's no real script. This is a garbage production. I don't know what I'm doing out here. He sees the movie. It debuted, I think, at the Cannes Film Festival or something like that. At the press conference, maybe Venice Film Festival, during the press conference, Tom Hardy was like, I owe everyone an apology. George Miller, I owe you an apology. Charlize Theron, I apologize for being such a jerk. This movie is incredible. You're a genius. Thank you for having me in this movie. So the guy is already extremely smart. He's a doctor, for crying out loud. Decided to make movies, and then he made one of the craziest, most lasting post-apocalyptic movies ever.
Mad Max Fury Road might be one of the most debated good versus bad movies I've heard of in a long time. You can't question the stunts and the action.
The style.
You can't question that because that's unbelievably well shot and very well choreographed for the action.
Sure.
So there's no question about that. But the question comes up in all the forums that I've seen about that movie is the plot. It had a very, very thin plot.
It's a 2-hour car chase movie, which is, at that point, I'm amazed it has as much plot as it does.
I mean, let's face it, Waterworld had more of a plot.
Yes, it did, but
Fury Road.
No one's like, Waterworld is a great movie. But when I saw Mad Max Fury Road, the first time I walked out of the theater, I felt exhilarated. I was like, this movie...
Agreed.
This movie gives me life. And I went back and saw it again. Very rarely do I get that feeling from a movie. And there's something about the visceral... aspect of that film and the way it is presented that just really spoke to me. It's very inspiring in many ways, more so even than the other Mad Max movies. I like the other ones; they're good, but I don't respond to them in the same way for whatever reason. I don't know what it is.
Different genre of person that they're targeting to as well.
Yeah,
that people now appreciate really less plot and more action. I mean, that's really just look at Fast and Furious.
Sure.
I mean, God, I walked out of that movie when I was maybe 17. I don't know when the first one came out.
First one, yeah.
I was exhilarated too. I was like, that's awesome. I want to go race my Buick. I wanted to do something.
It's like that was like crazy. That first one's a crazy Point Break remake where it's just like cars instead of surfboards. And now though, they're like we're gonna throw cars out of planes and off of buildings and stuff. And we don't care about the plot. It really is about action.
Now it's just more how outlandish can this get?
Yes.
I love the idea that George Miller is a doctor, and his whole idea for Mad Max is what would happen if all the drivers on the road just died of syphilis.
Pretty much. Like, what if they were all insane? Or what if they went crazy from syphilis over the years and put on bondage gear and lived out in the desert?
Yeah, and then what's the cure for that? Well, I'm going to give everyone a movie that's going to make it feel like they just did a bump of cocaine.
You know what though?
That's Fury Road.
Speaking of cocaine, I want whatever was in that silver spray. I'm just saying that stuff was, when the
chrome spray.
Yeah, that chrome spray they sprayed on their face before doing something that was going to kill them.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, cocaine
must be a really good high.
That's an Australian cocaine is what that is. He's also made other really good movies as well. He did a segment in the Twilight Zone movie. His was the remake of Terror at 20,000 Feet, the William Shatner episode of Twilight Zone where there's something on the wing.
Yeah.
And,
I was just on the airplane picturing that because we were there at night in a storm and I'm waiting for that alien face to be in the window.
Well,
I was so scared.
It's a good thing you didn't see the Twilight Zone movie because his section of that with John Lithgow as the passenger is so creepy and so well done.
Wait a minute. Help me out here. William Shatner was in that. I remember
William Shatner was in the TV show. He's in the original TV show version.
I'm thinking of the movie.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking of the movie too. With
and
John
the movie
Lithgow.
is John Lithgow, which is like even more bug nutty and insane because it's Lithgow, so he's got the eyes and the hair, and he's playing right to the camera. And then the creature itself looks really weird and gross.
I mean, Lithgow adopted a Bigfoot. I mean, once you invite a Sasquatch into your home, there's really nothing you can't do.
And then he was also a serial killer on numerous occasions, not even just once on TV.
Shatner could have played in the movie. He could have been the creature on the plane wing. I'm just saying that could have been.
I'm
they could have found
that thing on the wing.
It's me on the wing. That could have been him.
What a part.
He also did other successful movies, The Witches of Eastwick with Jack Nicholson and Cher, Lorenzo Zoil, Babe, Pig in the City. He wrote the
That's
first
a great
Babe.
movie.
He directed the second one.
Wait. The guy who wrote Mad Max
Yes.
did a Babe the Gallant Pig movie.
He did. He produced both Babes.
Babe.
Wrote
Stop
the
it.
first one.
Stop it.
Directed the second one, which is why the second one's better. He also wrote and directed the Happy Feet movies.
Those are
Those ones are really
adorable.
good.
I really like
I
that
love
first one
Happy
a
Feet.
lot. The second one has
I never saw the
moments.
second one.
It's okay.
Yeah, the
It has
second one I think was
moments.
directed video or directed DVD.
It felt like it wasn't, but it felt like it should have.
Yeah.
been.
Oh, it wasn't?
It
Okay,
was.
shit.
No, I saw that in theaters.
It still got Happy Meal prizes though.
My son grew up on Happy Feet. And he's about to be 12. But still loves that movie.
Is
So
that
you
crazy?
saw
Oh,
it
that's
like
perfect age for
100
Mad
times.
Max. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, remember Happy Feet? Well, here's this other movie.
Here's the same guy.
This is the exact same guy. You're gonna love it.
Yeah,
Minus
that's a
Robin Williams.
transition.
Yeah, right. It's the same thing. So that's your number 10, George Miller, Australian George Miller. Love that guy.
Good night, mate.
Good night, mate. Here
Hey,
we
but-
go with number 9.
Numero 9.
Nine.
Number 9 is a Dutch filmmaker that goes by the name of Paul Verhoeven. Does that sound familiar? Paul Verhoeven. No.
Dutch.
Yes, he's a Dutch filmmaker. As a matter of fact, born in Amsterdam, July 18, 1938. His family moved to The Hague in the Netherlands in 1943 because the Netherlands was Nazi occupied.
Yep.
And they were being bombed to shit because they were losing, and a lot of families were just being corralled into, central locations and ostensibly to try to save them. But what happened to him, 1943, the family moved to The Hague, and the Verhoeven house was near a German military base that had rocket launchers, which was bombed constantly. Their neighbor's house was hit, and his parents were almost killed when bombs fell on a street crossing. So we're talking about a guy who is born and raised in the shit in World War II.
So Jay, if the last director was influenced by what he saw in the ER from those crashes and everything, this director's being influenced by what he's seeing.
I'm
in
pretty
the
sure
war,
this is the
maybe.
guy that animated Charlotte's Web.
You know what? He could have. But then Charlotte would have done a lot of fucking in that movie, let me tell you. And you'll know what I'm talking
You
about in a
saw all
minute.
those babies she had.
Jackson, as a matter of fact, maybe he was a ghostwriter. Well, let me speak to that, Adam. Here is a quote from Paul Verhoeven. He says, I was with a friend. I was 6 then, playing in the street. This is, again, Nazi-occupied Netherlands. We were playing in the street and climbing the wall of a house that belonged to the Dutch National Socialist Party. So let's say a house that was Nazi-oriented. Then a Kubelwagen came in, a German Jeep, with Dutch and German soldiers, and the Dutch soldiers were in German uniforms. They were collaborators. They said, climb off this wall. We got off the wall. They said, put your nose against the wall. Remember, he's 6 years old. Put your nose against the wall. We're going to shoot you. And then we did that, and they started laughing and saying it was a joke. I peed in my trousers. I went home and I said, Mommy, I peed in my trousers. When I told them what happened, they got frightened because it could have been the other way, isn't it? There was not always an enormous humanistic aspect to the German occupation, end quote. So his whole thing is, at the age of 6, some German soldiers saw him, told him, put his nose against the wall, we're going to shoot you. And then they laughed because they were joking around.
Right.
And then he sees that as, oh my God, this is actually a reflection of their humanity and not their monstrosity. We see them as monsters, but here they're joking around. They could have really just shot us in the back of the head and been true monsters, but instead they were...
Yeah, he's just a real guy with a dark sense of humor.
Exactly. And so that's a really weird way to look at the Nazi occupation
It's
that's
an
happening
optimist
around you.
perspective, or at least trying to find a little good in a lot
A
of bad.
silver lining type of thing,
Yeah.
right?
He's 6. He's yet to be corrupted by, life.
That is very true. He said later on, this is to The Guardian, this is in 2011, a quote he said, "We all should realize that we live in an extremely violent universe. If you look at the sky with the Hubble telescope, you will see galaxies hitting each other. Just think of the amount of life that every moment is being destroyed. It is basically our destiny to be destroyed," end quote.
Wow.
So obviously, World War II kind of affected this guy
A little bit.
a little bit. Now, he made a bunch of movies as a Dutch filmmaker in the 70s with Rutger Hauer. As a matter of fact, he and Rutger Hauer got popular at the same time with a movie called Turkish Delight, which is a very sexual movie, very exploitive, and that became his theme, and you'll see that pop up in his American movies. When he came to America, he started with science fiction, though, satire. he made in 1987 RoboCop.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
There we go. So think about the satire in RoboCop, how over the top it is, how violent it is.
Absolutely.
But it's done in a way that this is supposed to be satirical, almost like Tarantino style. This is a joke. You're not supposed to take this seriously. That would come from someone who's surviving constant bombings and German soldiers putting guns on him and stuff like that at the age of 6. He followed that up with Total Recall. Another very intense sci-fi movie that's questioning reality. Very, very violent movie.
Daniel Dennis does the best Arnold Schwarzenegger being shot out of
In
a...
Total Recall.
That was my favorite sci-fi movie.
You see the scene when his eyes are popping out. Daniel Dennis, Tom and Dan.
Yeah.
Dude, it's the fucking funniest
It's
thing
really
in the
good.
world. I laugh every time I hear him.
And it's a great movie too. And
The remake was horrible.
so bad.
Yeah.
What was that?
It was
I
horrible.
ask that every night before I go to bed. What was that?
I don't get
it's
it.
so terrible. It's such a great story that they came up with. And
The second
I
one, he
don't know.
didn't even go to Mars, right? The second one, he
Correct.
never left.
They never even went to Mars.
Yeah.
It all took place on Earth, but there was still a 3-breasted
Yes, I was just
prostitute.
thinking. We got
Well,
to
no,
get
you can't.
You
I was
can't.
just thinking
What
that.
they
Yeah.
pick. That's weird.
No, but I heard the second one was actually more actual direct from the book.
I
Screw the
don't
book.
think so.
The movie is where it's at.
that's the argument I have when people are like, "Oh, well, this movie was closer to the book." I'm like, that doesn't mean it's good.
I don't think it was closer to the book, though. I think it was a simplified version of the movie as opposed to what's the book is We Can Reimagine It For You Wholesale, which I don't even think it was a book. I think it was just a short story.
Yeah.
So whoever's telling you that is full of shit, man. Because it's just a Philip K. thing. He's written a lot of stuff. I think that was just a short story.
Okay.
As a matter of fact. Yeah, man, that remake stunk. It was so bad. The RoboCop remake stunk as well. They remake all these guys' movies and they don't know what works about them. They think, RoboCop is a fun, cool action movie. No, RoboCop was a satire about the way Republicans look at the violent inner cities and how we have to build a new Detroit, et cetera, with more law enforcement. 209s and RoboCop losing their humanity, all that. This guy is much smarter than people take him for.
I never heard that analogy.
Well, RoboCop is a very
awesome.
smart movie. That's the thing. You look at it and it's titled RoboCop. That is a dumb title. So dumb that when he got the screenplay, he was like, I'm not doing a movie called RoboCop. This is stupid. His wife read it and said, no, you should read the script. It might be up your alley. It's smarter than you think it is. Same thing happened to him in 1997 with Starship Troopers.
Yes.
Oh, I love that
That's
movie.
a great movie. But when it came out, people were like, why are the actors so young and acting so stilted? Why is this? They didn't understand he's making a propaganda movie.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be warning you against fascism and American imperialism and neocolonialism, etc. And people saw it the complete opposite way. It was like, he's celebrating fascism. And Paul Verhoeven was like, no, you're stupid. You're a bunch of idiots. And it took a while for people to come around that one.
I watched. I mean, obviously, I was a kid when it came out, so I just like, ooh, boobs and Neil Patrick Harris, Doogie Howser's in this.
Yeah.
But watching it as an adult, I was like, holy shit! If Goebbels was still alive, these are the movies he'd be making.
Yes, 100%. It's a Letty Riefenstahl 1990s movie where it's like, this is what the Nazis would be showing you in the Third Reich if the Third Reich existed, today.
Who was the brunette? Not the redhead in there that had the boobs in the movie, but the brunette. that was
Denise
in that.
Richards?
Denise Richards, thank you.
Yeah.
I've had
Charlie
this-
Sheen's first
Why
first taste of
haven't I
Tiger
seen
Blood.
this movie?
Starship Troopers.
I've heard it, but
That's a
I've
great
just
question.
never seen it.
You should see it.
Andrea,
you should fix
we're
that.
gonna have a date.
All right.
right.
And see it before they do the horrible remake. That is sure going
You know
against
what's
the vote.
funny is I think I actually have that movie in my DVD jukebox.
See you.
Yeah, I just always just didn't
Let's
watch
just shut all this down and watch
She
the
sees.
movie.
I just figured
Yes.
I figured it was like Star Wars or something.
Oh, no.
Bypassed
My
it.
Much
biggest,
smarter.
my biggest beef with that movie is the fact that it took place in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and everybody's white. Everyone's
So
American.
white. So
Yeah.
that's also intentional, though. That's what you would do if Hollywood was making a war propaganda movie. They
Right.
would- like, here is Rico from Buenos Aires, and,
Yeah,
and
they
he's played by
whitewashed.
Casper Van Dien. Yeah, 100%. And people took that as like there were like, those are shots at the movie. These are reasons why the movie's bad. And Paul Verhoeven's like, no, this is why I made this movie this way on purpose. You're missing it. And it's taken time, but people have come around to that one. He's also made movies where people are like, I don't know about it, and then it still hasn't aged very well. Like he did Showgirls with Elizabeth Berkley back in the day, and that was supposed to be, again, satire and over the top. That one's a little harder to defend though than the other movies.
You know what?
Yeah.
Now that I know that, I want to watch it again, knowing that and see how
knowing
it
that
affects.
it's the same guy, right? And knowing what his attention is.
Yeah,
It's
knowing
not,
that it's a satire.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. He's not just trying to titillate you. He's actually trying to make fun of the whole situation.
I kind of just want to watch Showgirls again.
You just want to watch Jessie Spano's tits without her having to go off about, I'm so excited. I'm so scared.
Jessie Spano.
Those caffeine pills, man, they're dangerous.
Yeah,
They
man.
are super dangerous.
In 2000, he also made the movie Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon, which is unmitigated trash and indefensible.
Oh, no, I like Hollow Man.
Oh, man, it's so
Yeah,
bad.
that's how Elizabeth Berkley got two
It's so bad.
got two away from Kevin Bacon.
But yeah, that's Paul Verhoeven is an intense filmmaker, and if you want a funny commentary track, if you can find the commentary track for Total Recall, he does it with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he's got his very thick Dutch accent, and then Schwarzenegger with his Austrian accent. So it's just two very heavily accented men going back and
So
forth.
it's basically the
funny.
Nazis like, we could have had them.
Yeah, this is what it could have been, but you guys totally blew it.
Denise Richards, before we go on, Denise Richards, though, I proposed this a long time ago in Living Podcariously, other show, and Jay, I think you shot me down almost immediately on this.
Possibly.
If there's one female actress that could have ever played a better, in my opinion, Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, it would be Denise Richards.
Really?
Yes, her character size fit the
Thank
portrait of the game better than Angelina Jolie did.
Problem is, she can't act worth shit.
Well, you don't really need to do a lot to be Lara Croft.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a lot of acting in the game. You didn't have a whole lot of character development. You had a lot of backstory, but not really character development. So really, you didn't need to be there. You just need to look pretty holding a gun and be acrobatic.
Really?
Thank you.
Am I
Andrea.
alone on this one? I'm
I mean,
alone.
I don't even think she's that pretty. If that's going to be your
Once
thing,
Charlie
all you
Sheen's
have to
been
do is be
inside
pretty
of
with
you.
a gun.
Well, that's
I mean, that's what happened to Alexis Texas' porn career. I mean, once Charlie Sheen was hitting it, no one's making fucking movies with her.
Well, there's pre-Tiger Blood Sheen and post-Tiger Blood Sheen too, so that matters a lot.
That's fair.
You know, he's got that time.
I'm going to stand on my lone little island
Bowling
thinking Denise
shirts.
Richard would be a better Lara Croft. I'll be on that island for the rest of my life.
They're making a new Lara Croft too. I think they're still
Alicia
trying to cast it.
Vikander.
That is right.
Alicia Vikander is
That's
on it.
correct, and
She did a great fucking job on, what was it, Ex Machina?
She was amazing. Ex
Oh, she was Ex Machina. Okay, I was going to look her up.
Yep,
but-
I really enjoyed her also in The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yes.
She's really good in that. And what else did I just see her?
There was another one she did. It was a period piece.
The Ocean
gross.
Between Us,
Yes.
with Michael Fassbender,
Yes.
which they're great. It's a solid, well made movie, but it's also a bummer and a half. And when it was over, I was like, ugh, like this just made me. This was 2 hours of making me sad. Is all this was. What ended up there. That happens. All right, so that was your number 7. I'm sorry, number 9.
that was number 9, shit.
I get mine. I have number dyslexia. So here we go with number 8.
Number
Ocho.
8.
All right, number 8. Number 8 is the first lady in the group. I want there to be more women. Unfortunately, I wanted to say this at the beginning too. As a matter of fact, I was going to do a disclaimer. It's a lot of straight white men on my list. I don't want that to be a reflection of me or the nature of badass directors, but it really is the nature of quote liberal Hollywood and how they don't give opportunities to people of color or women. So it's slim pickings when it comes to stuff like that. So
Who did I? Oh, it was your show that I heard it on, where if a female goes to propose for the investors for a big budget film, I need $150 million to make this movie.
Yeah.
You guys said, no, I'm sorry, you've got a vagina.
Yeah,
Next.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Why? Because Wonder Woman just came out, and Wonder Woman is the first movie to open up to $100 million directed by a woman. And everyone's like, oh, finally a woman broke the record, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Hollywood just hasn't had enough female directors with big budget movies.
Right, yeah.
They haven't given them enough chances. And it's like, exactly. It's because, we don't want you to direct our big movie because, you have tits and a vagina. It makes no fucking
Hollywood
sense.
is still misogynist.
It's crazy. Oh my God, it's crazy. Racist and sexist.
Yep.
But yet it's a liberal bubble that with a gay agenda.
We
I
have
don't
to be
understand.
progressive and accepting. I want to direct your movie. Hold on, sweetie. Hold on.
Not that progressive or accepting. Hold on.
Slow your roll.
The ice is melting my water, sugar. Why don't you go ahead and fill that up for me? That's what's really going on over there. But there's one person named Lexi Alexander. She was born August 23rd, 1974 in West Germany to a German mother and Palestinian father. So she is already, not only is she a female director, but she is also half Palestinian. So she's very aware of like Homeland, the TV show Homeland on Showtime. On Twitter, I highly recommend following her on Twitter at Lexi Alex. Alex, and she will shit all over all these like terrible, super racist depictions of Arabs and Muslims, and that's in like everyday American media that we're not even noticing. But it's like, look at this bullshit. Every time someone is of any sort of brown color from that region is on TV, it has to be in a terrorist role or whatever. Sure. And then at the same time, she's also fighting against the misogyny and sexism and trying to get just decent work. Now, she started as a teenager as a sensei already. She learned martial arts really young, and she was teaching other people martial arts while she was in high school. She actually had a bunch of football hooligans like under her aegis, and she had to drop them after a while because they were getting too rowdy, and she would go out with them to show solidarity, but then they were do their hooligan thing and start getting into fights and stuff. She's like, I can't run with you guys. This is insane. When she 1993, at the age of 19, she became a world champion in point fighting and karate, and then she used that to move to the US, where she got a part as Katana in the Mortal Kombat Live tour. So back in the 90s, when Mortal Kombat was the rage and they turned it into a live show of some sort, she played one of the characters. She was the character Katana.
That's awesome.
Which is pretty crazy. After that, she kept doing stunt work in LA while studying directing and acting. And then in 2005, she put out her first movie called Green Street Hooligans, which stars Elijah Wood. And it's about a bunch of hooligans, football hooligans and all that stuff. And they actually ended up making 2 or 3 sequels of that. It was popular enough. She only did the first one. She didn't do any of the sequels. But it's a very tough, gritty movie. And what I actually go on to define everything she's done since then. All of the movies she does are very tough. Ironically, too, she makes movies about men and tough men. And she has come out and said, as much as she wants to push for women and women roles and all that and women's stories, she's not the one to tell those stories because she actually likes doing the stories about the dudes.
That's also the audience. The audience absorbs that way more easily.
That's true.
Than they would the female lead role like that.
That is true. Very unfortunate, but that is true. But she also has translated that to TV, where she did direct a few episodes of Supergirl, and that she's gotten a lot of acclaim for that, as well as Arrow on CW. I think she did a few episodes of The Flash, pretty much comic book TV. She's become a big go-to person for that. But my favorite thing she's done, and probably the most underrated thing she's done, and probably the most badass thing she's done, is in 2008, she put out the movie Punisher Warzone, which is, I think it's the most underrated comic book movie of the last 15 years because it's so insane. It's an insane R-rated comic book movie where the Punisher, he's shotgunning old women in the face, and he's rocket launching parkour people like out of the sky. The bad guy, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, he drops them in a glass bottle grinder, like in a recycling plant, and then he turns it on, and the guy is getting all ground up. Like, this is how the movie starts. This is an intense, and it's a comic book movie, and people really don't give it any due whatsoever.
That was really the first hard R before
Deadpool and Logan. Now those are all the rage, making $600-700 million worldwide. Punisher Warzone, barely marketed, came out around Christmas, which is insane. Yeah, this is what I want to see during Christmas: a super violent Punisher movie.
Hey, it worked for Die Hard.
No, Die Hard came out during the summer, buddy. It was set during Christmas.
It was a Christmas movie, but
it was set during the summer.
I had to run the test. He passes.
Man, Die Hard's one of my favorite movies too. But Punisher is a great movie, and Lexi Alexander is like out there fighting the good fight. And because of her outspokenness, she has caused herself a lot of jobs and a lot of work. And she is like, you know what? That's just the nature of it. I can't have it both ways, so I will continue to be outspoken and do my thing. So I think she's pretty awesome because of that. So that was my number 8. Number 7.
Number 7.
Number 7 is this fella called Walter Hill. Walter Hill was born January 10, 1942 in Long Beach, California. His whole filmography is really informed by the influences in his life. Specifically, his grandfather was a wildcat oil driller, and his father was a supervisor on an assembly line for Douglas Aircraft. So of his father and his grandfather, Walter Hill said they were, quote, smart physical men who worked with their heads and their hands and had great mechanical ability. So, of course, all the movies he ends up making end up reflecting that kind of hard-nosed, like working hard type of aesthetic, even when he gets into genre and stuff. Because when he was growing up, he watched a lot of Westerns, and he was really big into serialized entertainment like that in the 50s. So he really wanted to make genre movies. He didn't want to necessarily make something that was smart. He just wanted to make something that was entertaining, but it was also going to be like hard.
During these descriptions, Jay, I find myself trying to guess what the movie's going to be just because I don't know the character or the person that he's talking about during most of these. but I'm trying to guess the movie based on the background story. I love the organization of how you're bringing up the background before.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why they're badass to begin with. They have to have a good story, you know. Some people I read their story like, is this guy really a badass? I don't know. But Walter, the movies he ended up making are pretty tough. For example, in '78, he made a movie called The Driver, which is Ryan O'Neal, and in that movie, it's just like a heist movie with a getaway driver, a lot like Drive, or this movie Baby Driver coming out now. This is a type of movie that actually influenced these movies that come out today. And it's super like hard-nosed and crazy. But the one that really blew up for him was the next year, 1979, he directed The Warriors. Any of you guys have seen that one? The gangs in New York City, right? The one gang gets framed for murder. They have to get back all the way back to Coney Island, and it's one crazy night in New York City. I have a quote here from Walter Hill about that. He says, Hollywood forgives a lot when you have a hit. I don't know what to say about it other than the fact that it was just a gift in terms of getting it. The studio hated it, talking about The Warriors, and didn't even want to release it. There was a lot of friction with management at the time. Some of it might have been my fault. So he optioned the movie. He started making it, and then the studio was like, what is this? This is insane. This movie's not going to make any money. They put it out anyway. It makes a bunch of money, becomes super popular. They even made a great Warriors video game like 10 years ago for Xbox that I thought it was a Rockstar game, as a matter of fact. It was like the last, the last Rockstar game they did.
It would have to be a Rockstar game.
Yeah, it would have to be, exactly. And right before they did the 360, I think it was like the last one for that console. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Warriors is actually, I think they're developing right now another potentially shitty remake.
Probably. Why not, man? It's such a great story, and the characters and all. It can be so much fun, and it can be a good remake too. There's no reason why it couldn't be good.
It could be. I doubt that it will.
Yeah,
but it could be.
It'll probably be shit. You're right. At the same time, in the late 70s, he's also working. He made a lot of his money as a writer, and he got to produce, and he wrote a draft of a little movie that some of you may have heard called Alien.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Right. He is actually behind all the Alien movies. And he got the screenplay for Alien, rewrote it. And John Hughes, who's popular in the 80s for movies like Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, all those high school type movies, he read the script for Alien. And this is a John Hughes quote. He said, I had been writing scripts for quite a while, but I never really knew what screenwriting was about until I read the script Walter wrote for Alien. So that's how influential this guy was even before the movie got made. He produced Aliens. It was his idea to make it an action movie and not a horror movie, and to hire James Cameron instead of going back to Ridley Scott. So he really shepherded that movie in that series in the beginning and made it what it was today.
I am a giant Ridley Scott fan. So what's your take on the Ridley Scott versus, who's your favorite director for the Alien or Aliens? You like the horror or the thriller?
I see them as two separate movies. I understand wanting to compare the two, but I think Alien is like such a great horror movie. It's so well made and so tense, and it sets out to do its thing and does it perfectly. Aliens is so different, and James Cameron brought a whole other thing to it that I feel like James Cameron couldn't have done Alien. And I don't think Ridley Scott could have done Aliens the same way James Cameron did. Like, I don't think you could flip those directors.
Sure, I can see that.
The movies they made were near perfect, and if you flip it, they may have fucked up each other guy's movie.
What's your take on Prometheus?
I liked it more than the average bear, that's for sure.
Okay, good, because I'm a fan of Prometheus.
Are you? Yeah.
No one else in the damn world seems to like that movie.
It got shit on really hard. Yeah. Just that one, the abortion scene where she has the alien in her, and she has to get it.
That's a little rough.
There's
another one I haven't seen.
Oh man, that scene, just that one scene makes me squirm so much because it was so well done. And it's hard for a movie to like really affect you physically, at least me.
Is it? I have nightmares over everything.
Oh, then you should not see Prometheus then.
That one
I close my eyes during everything that's scary.
If a scene involves a snake, I watch it like this because I can't stand snakes.
The entire theory behind, what is it, panspermia?
Yeah.
When an alien would bring the DNA to the world, to Earth.
Which is what Prometheus is doing,
That was fucking fabulous.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's
you
all
just
about
like sperm. That's all you like.
But it's also about the searching for life and aliens. I love all that meta stuff too as well. And Alien Covenant goes down that road a little bit as well.
That yet.
I like it.
I want to so bad.
I think it's really good. If you like Prometheus, I think you'll really like it.
I love the alien stuff. It scares the crap out of me.
I'm a big Alien fan, and Walter Hill, he's one of the guys behind it. Going back to movies he directed in the 80s while Alien is out there making a bunch of money and fattening up his bank account. He wrote and directed 48 Hours, Nick Nolte and Eddie
Oh,
Murphy.
shit.
That was originally supposed to be with a different pair of leading actors, but they both dropped out. I think it was supposed to be Richard Pryor and someone else. I can't remember. So they got Nick
Getting
Nolte.
too old for this shit.
Right, exactly. But they got Nick Nolte, and they're like, we need someone to pair up with him. And someone was like, you should check out this guy over at SNL, Eddie Murphy. He may have it. He may have it. He cast him in 48 Hours. Lo and behold, Eddie Murphy has it, So
Nice.
that career got launched. 84, he made a movie called Streets of Fire, which I bring up just because it's one of my favorite movies. A lot of people don't really know about it. It got, really shit on when it came out and didn't make any money, but it's one of those things that got a big cult following, and it's a crazy rock and roll musical type of thing where it's like about a dude who's like the girl is played by Diane Lane, and she's like 19 years old in this movie, and she's a singer of a band. She gets kidnapped by a biker gang straight out of the 50s, led by Willem Dafoe, who looks insane.
Has he ever looked sane?
I can only imagine that he looks
all right.
exactly the same.
No, picture him looking normal. Okay, now make him look insane with like a leather overall shirtless getup, and his hair is like doo-wop greased back, and he's pale and sweaty. And
Keep going.
It looks
Keep
wild.
going. Give me a towel. I got to cover my boner.
And then he ends up having he has to fight the guy he has a sledgehammer fight. It is so weird. It is odd. It's a strange, bizarre movie. A lot of cool Ry Cooder based rock and roll music, and it's just a really cool, badass movie. He also made Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor. It's his only real, straight up comedy. But
We just spoke Richard Pryor last week. I think.
Hey, you should be speaking.
No,
Richard
we were
Pryor
talking
every
Dudley
week.
Moore.
Yeah, last week?
Maybe 2 weeks ago. We talked about Dudley Moore.
No,
I
we
think.
have not. I've never once spoken
Crazy
about Dudley
People?
Moore.
Somebody talked with
don't
me on one of the
remember.
podcasts about Dudley Moore.
That
Crazy
must have
people
been-
or stir crazy?
Crazy people.
Crazy people.
I
That's
loved Crazy
Really?
People.
Yeah.
It's the one where they're in the insane asylum and they come up with ads for like Volvos.
Yeah.
Volvos. They're boxy, but they're
we
good.
did talk about that. Yeah, because the only movie I remember Dudley Moore from was like Father Like Son.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Not even Arthur.
Oh, and Arthur. Yeah. yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah, Arthur. Yeah.
You can't forget Arthur.
That's how everyone knows Dudley Moore, right?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen the Ralph Macchio movie Crossroads, 1986, where he's a blues guitar player?
Wait, he did something besides Karate Kid?
Exactly. Yes, he did. And it's a movie called Crossroads, and it's pretty much, oh look, Danielson is playing guitar now, and he learns to shred. It's really funny. Actually, he plays a character who is he's a high schooler, and he learns classical guitar, so it's very beautiful music. But then he goes to clubs at night with his electric guitar, and he wants to be able to shred. And it's all based on the Robert Johnson Crossroads legend, Selling Your Soul. Yeah. So he has to. There's a scene where it's the cutting head scene where he shows up at a club. It's a climax of the movie, and he has to have like a guitar off with this other guy who I think is played by Satriani.
Who says that in the background?
Joe Satriani chiming in the background there.
Tax at him.
Tax.
oh, man.
Tax showed up, by the way, guys.
The whole scene, them going back and forth, it's so good, so well made, and it's a real like lost gem of the 80s.
That's awesome.
Crossroads, I recommend that. Obviously, Aliens in 86. He did Red Heat with Schwarzenegger and Belushi in 88, which is just 48 Hours, but with a Russian and the Chicago cop. and then also, probably the last thing he did that I really liked was in 2004. He did the pilot episode for Deadwood. He produced the show Deadwood. And then he did the pilot, and that's another. It has his fingerprints all over it. It's hard. It's about hard men, rough
See,
living.
When you were describing him, I was picturing like, what was it? No Country for Old Men.
yeah, so
Stuff like that. So now that you're saying Deadwood, I'm like, okay, there it is.
Last Man Standing with Bruce Willis in the 90s, he did that one, which is just a modernized Western remake of Yojimbo. Yes, Yojimbo, which is then remade into Fistful of Dollars, the Clint Eastwood movie.
One of our guests in the studio just showed me a picture of William Dafoe in Streets of Fire. Yeah.
Insane looking, right?
Wow.
Insane
That's almost a
looking.
little Billy Idol looking?
Yeah.
You know what?
Billy Idol. That's a
I
good one.
imagine that's what his character from Boondock Saints looks like on a Saturday night.
Boondock Saints, another one of the best
Yes,
movies of all
that's
time,
it.
by the way.
And then he noticed the streets on fire behind him. That is Walter Hill right there.
I don't think I've ever seen him young. He looks exactly like he does
He
now.
does always look weird.
He was born Benjamin Button disease. I'm just saying.
but he's stuck in the old man.
Yeah, he never grew
No
young.
matter what, he's stuck in
But
the old man.
it's not like Steven Tyler. Like Steven Tyler looked 80 when he was 20.
Yeah.
But now that he's actually 80, you're like, oh, he looks pretty good for
I'm
his
so
age.
glad you brought up Steven Tyler. You need to pull up your phone real quick, do an image search for Steven Tyler's toes.
Oh no, not if you want to sleep tonight.
I'm not putting that on my Google search.
It is brutal.
Yeah, no,
it is. And look, I don't have the prettiest toes in the world, but Steven Tyler's look like a 75-year-old man with the arthritic knuckles hanging over themselves. That's in his toes.
Looks like he tried to clear the Amazon rainforest with his feet.
Jay, look
Everyone remember to get pedicures, and this won't happen. Come see me at Brent Allen's salon.
Good plug.
There you go. Plug.
Hey, Daniel, would you do me a favor? Right there next to you on that table, there's a little bell. Hit it one time for me. There you go. That's the plug for Brent Allen Salon.
Plug bell. Very good. I gotta work a bell into my show somehow. That's fun. So there you go. Walter Hill. He was number 7. So let's do number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6 is a fella named Alejandro Jodorowsky. I don't expect anyone to know that name.
I thought you were going to go Inarito.
No.
That's a fun name to say.
It is a fun name, though. Alejandro Jodorowsky.
He
was born in February 17, 1929, still alive, to Jewish Ukrainian immigrants in Chile. The reason I bring that up is important.
That explains the name.
It does explain the name. So he's the son of immigrants in Chile. So first off, let me tell you about his parents. His father was abusive to his wife, and at one time accused her of flirting with one of their customers. So angrily, he beat her and raped her, got her pregnant. That pregnancy led to Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Wow.
Because of the situation of that pregnancy, his mother hated both his father and him, and he couldn't get any love or affection from his mother because he was a product of that terrible act, that rape and all that. So he's not getting any love from his family. Also, he doesn't get along with his sister, and he always thought his sister was trying to take all the affection away from whatever affection was there. She was trying to hog it all up. So he didn't get along with anyone in the family. In his town, the Chileans didn't like him because he was the son of immigrants. So they all shat on him as an outsider. But in that town, there were also American mining industrialists that worked there, and they shat on the locals, on the Chileans, because they were Americans, big dick Americans. We're here, we have all the money.
Sure.
So no matter where he went, he was getting shit on and beat up for being Chilean, for being an immigrant, and for just existing.
Poor guy.
And that's how he began his life.
That's a rough life.
That's a rough beginning. He sought out, as a way to get away from all this, he did what any normal person would do. He went to mime. He became a mime. He went to France, as a matter of fact, very specifically. And he learned the art of mime. And while he was there, he also met a ton of artists. He got into poetry, transcendental meditation. Like, he went off the deep end with all that stuff. And flash forward to the 60s, where he makes his first movie called Fondo y Lis. It's a Spanish title. Yeah, Fondo y Lis. And it ended up being a sensation at midnight screenings. He ends up becoming the father of the midnight movie because his movies are so wild and crazy. Theaters didn't want to show it early. They had to show them at midnight, so they put up midnight screenings, and then they became super popular, and all his movies ended up becoming like that. He started the model of the midnight screening, the midnight movie. And Fondo y Lis, it's a very experimental movie. If you watch it, there's a plot, but it doesn't make any sense. It's like there's a guy playing the piano, it's on fire, and there's someone on the unicycle riding by it. It's nonsense.
Sounds like something Willem Dafoe should be in.
Right, he would be amazing in it. But what happened was, because there also is some very extreme imagery in this movie, they actually caused, like, and it's the 60s, people didn't know what to do, they weren't expecting it. It caused a couple of like riots in some like foreign countries, and like theater audiences like went crazy, and it got him a reputation, and it got him some money, and then he made his second movie, a Western called El Topo, which is a wild Western, and it's kind of an anti-Western. It took like the popular Westerns of the time and flipped a lot of conventions. Again, came out midnight screenings, got very popular. He took that money, he took that success, got $1 million to make whatever he wanted, and he made a movie called The Holy Mountain. This is the movie that I really want to focus on, and if people are interested in this guy at all, they should check out a movie called The Holy Mountain, which is fucked up. It is a crazy movie.
It's the best endorsement you can give a movie like that.
Oh my God, you won't forget it. The Holy Mountain is about a guy who, he's sort of a Jesus type figure, and he meets these people who are like, we're going to show you all, they're societies on all the planets. You think Uranus and Neptune, you think they're empty? No, there's societies there. We're going to take you there, and they do crazy things. One of the places, they take the guy, they set him up on a platform, and they set him up so he can take a shit. And then when he shits, it's gold. He takes a golden shit, and then they're passing around the golden shit.
Oh my God.
It's so weird. Certain scenes are like extremely violent and bloody. Other ones are just weird and like musical. It's all, I mean, he ate acid for weeks before he decided to make this movie.
I was going to say, that sounds like something you need to be on another plane of existence to watch.
It helps. It helps. I've seen it sober, but it helps to go the other way as well. And I've talked to people who, and it is one where some people come to me like, hey, you know, maybe I think I might have fallen on a bag of mushroom caps tonight. Can you recommend something for me to watch? Holy Mountain is one that it's on the short list of
they call you the next morning. Fuck you.
I've gotten that. I've gotten both. I've gotten, oh, that was great. To like, what did you do to me? No.
I love that being a weird niche to follow. I used to work at Blockbuster Video, and people were like, what would you recommend for this and this and this? I would love to be that guy like, hey, listen, I got a bag of some really primo LSD.
Yeah.
What movie would you recommend with this?
And I would say Holy Mountain. I would say another one called Holy Motors is a French movie that came out a few years ago.
So basically anything with the word holy in it that isn't starring Kirk Cameron.
Or Eddie Murphy, because they ended up with Holy Man with the Jeff.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was brutal.
That was brutal, right?
I feel like Jeff Goldblum's always a little more tolerable with LSD.
Jeff, yeah, well,
because life will find a way.
Well, life will find a way. Yes, Jeff Goldblum's great no matter what. As a matter of fact, I love the guy. There's a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune. After the success of Holy Mountain, it was a very successful film. His producers were like, well, you can make whatever movie you want to make whatsoever. And he was like, I want to make Dune. And he doesn't even know why he said he wanted to make Dune. Someone told him about the book one day. He never even read it. It was like, oh, that sounds cool. I can make that into a movie. So he decided to make that. And there's a great documentary that goes over his whole process of putting together a team, trying to make it. And this actually ties back to the last director. He put together the writer and the production designer that would come up with the basis for Alien, and then would go to Walter Hill, and he rewrote the script, and that's how Alien came about. Jodorowsky hired H.R. Giger to come up with the artwork for a whole class of people in the Dune universe, and half of the artwork that he used for Dune that didn't get, because the movie never got made, ended up using in a bunch of movies, including Alien and Prometheus and stuff like that.
No shit.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how this movie Dune never got made, but in its death in pre-production, it birthed a whole bunch of other movies and other influences.
Well, are you referring to the Dune that was GD Prime or the
I'm talking about
Spice?
Yeah, the Frank Herbert's Dune, which then ended up getting made by David Lynch with Kyle MacLachlan and Sting and all that, and it's absolutely terrible. And they even go over that in the documentary, because after Jodorowsky's his version fell apart because financing fell through, he was like, he heard about the David Lynch one. He's like, no, I love David Lynch. I'm a fan. It's gonna be too painful for me to go see this movie. And then he's like, all right, his son took him, he's like, all right, we'll go see this movie. And he watches it with his head in his hands, like, no, this is gonna be a terrible experience. Then as the movie's unfolding, he starts brightening up. He's like, yes, this movie is terrible. Thank God this movie is terrible, and it's a piece of shit, and it's not going to be a pain for me to have to sit through this. And it's a great documentary. And then he actually has struggled for many years since that to even make a movie. He didn't make another one until like 5 years ago. He went a very long time where just as a writer, making comic books, a lot of his stories he put out in graphic novel form, very successful in that way. But I would just say, I'd go back and check out his original movies. El Topo, the Western, and The Holy Mountain are wild, wild movies. And Jodorowsky's Dune shows the lengths that he's willing to go through to make a movie like that, even when it fails, and how he's still up about that.
Sure.
And that's why that guy's a total badass. I love that dude.
Nice.
So there you go. Number
That's
6.
10 through 6.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah, that's 10 through 6. Jesus Christ, this is taking me down a trip of movies that I have to go watch now. I am a fan of Dune, though. I will point that out. Of course, I was 8 when it came. Well, I guess I was 8 when I saw it for the first time.
You're also a fan of Denise Richards as Lara Croft. So
yeah,
we're
that's a good point.
We're gonna leave that.
We have a running list here for future judging, apparently.
All right, we're going to take a break in studio, and during our break, we're going to get Tach hooked up on Mike because he showed up. You know, that whole SpaceX thing. He's got to push the button to make the rocket go off. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey, Tach, do you ever have that conversation with your girl about where to eat dinner, and it always turns into that back and forth? I don't know, you pick.
Yeah, every once in a while, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got an answer for you next time that comes up.
Oh, yeah? Where at?
The Salty Fox in Melbourne off of Oak Alley Boulevard.
Oh, nice. You know, I've actually been there, and the food was pretty awesome.
Hell yeah, it was. They offer a great selection of paninis, shareable appetizers, soups and salads, and one of the best desserts I've ever had, the Funky Monkey.
Oh, yeah. My favorite was the vintage options. They got this meal called ramen noodle on crack. You just got to try it out.
Done. That's definitely what I'm getting next time.
Put the fun between your legs at the Salty Fox every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. with the Oak Alley Arts District Bike Crawl.
It's a 4-mile bicycle ride down Pineapple Avenue with stops for food and beer all along the route. Be sure to visit the Salty Fox every Sunday for brunch from 11 to 4.
Hey, isn't that the $10 bottomless mimosas brunch?
Sure is. Enjoy your brunch while the Salty Fox's DJ spins throwbacks and top 40 hits.
Salty Fox is located in the downtown Oak Alley Art District on Oak Alley Boulevard.
Check them out on Facebook at facebook.com/saltyfoxmelbourne or online at thesaltyfox.net.
Hey listeners, be sure to mention you heard about the Salty Fox on our show and you'll get 10% off your meals.
Village Idiot Pub. You locals know about it. You guys from out of town have to check them out.
Village Idiot Pub is now a proud sponsor with Living Podcariously and the Twisted 10 podcasts.
It's more than just about commercials, though. The cast here will be taking our show on the road to Village Idiot to record some episodes as well as hold events. They have over 30 beers on tap, including ciders and Hefeweizen, my favorite, as well as hundreds of bottle choices.
Adam, you forgot my favorite, all the delicious wine. So get your friends together and enjoy the board games, puzzles, and the giant Jenga.
Let the owner, Jason, as well as the rest of the staff there, take excellent care of your beer drinking needs.
Mention either one of our shows to the staff and get 10% off your tab.
Tuesday is open mic, Wednesday is trivia, Thursday is karaoke, Friday and Saturday night are live music.
Visit them at 4 Harrison Street, Suite 103, Cocoa, Florida, or Village Idiot Pub on Facebook. And don't forget, they are a dog-friendly location, so bring your friends, family, and fur babies.
Do you like sci-fi, AI, and technology? Do you enjoy going on tangents and down random rabbit holes of a subject? Then join me and my friends each week on Brokebot Mountain as some artificially intelligent people attempt to walk through a maze that explores themes of existence and free thought in sci-fi TV, movies, and books. The conversations are unique and bring an unusual perspective to the genre and can literally go anywhere. And we do mean anywhere. You can find us at blazingcariboustudios.com or look for Brokebot Mountain on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, it's Adam. If you enjoy the hosts or the content of the Twisted 10, be sure to check out our other show. It's called Living Podcariously. While the Twisted 10 may get crass and explicit occasionally, it holds no water to Living Podcariously. We do get a little bit more rough and raw on that show. We have a lot of fun producing it and have had some awesome guests. And as always, thanks for listening. All right, welcome back to the Twisted 10. This week's Twisted 10 is brought to you from Chris Crespo with Cinema Crespodiso Podcast. There's
Look
the
how
horns.
he pronounced all of that right.
Yeah, he did it good. Yeah.
He was so good. He practiced
I was gonna say
for months.
It's like he was practicing.
Chris, don't I was practicing, but I'm sitting on the shitter listening to your podcast. Chris Crespo, Cinema Crespodiso, not Chris Crespodiso or Cinema Crespo. It's illiterate.
That happens to me all the time. And on the shitter is the best place to listen to the shows.
Hell yeah.
No,
It's very appropriate.
what really started happening too is that after he was done taking the shit, hey, check out this Crespodiso I left out here.
Oh, boom! Look at that Diso. I left a big old Diso for you to clean up.
What's happening? I just got here.
Wait, who are you?
All right, so joining us now back for the second half of Twisted 10, because he's pushing those buttons
Yeah.
over at SpaceX, is
Yeah.
co-host Tach Van Sickle.
Hi, I'm back. I'm here. Sorry I was late,
All
everybody.
right, Chris, start over from the beginning.
All right, here we go.
I'm
Number
kidding.
10.
Number 10.
Also joining us in studio, not on mic this time, but listening in for the podcast, are our good friends, friends of the show, Daniel Pierce and Jennifer Buddington. Thank you guys for joining us.
Welcome.
Did I say the names right? Okay, yes, I guess I'm not.
You are on a roll tonight,
Right?
Lord Adam.
Right, wait till later. I'll alliterate all over you. All right.
That's gross.
Boom.
All right, so for Tach's sake, since he's late,
Yes.
can you give him a rundown, obviously, of 10 through 6, just the names of each one of those?
Yes, I can.
And also what the top 10 list is again,
The
please.
top 10 list itself, Tach, is movie related because I do Cinema Crespodiso.
That's awesome. I love it.
It's a movie show, and the list is top 10 badass filmmakers, and
Nice.
badass in different ways that however I can make it fit the term that I'm trying to do here.
That's awesome.
And I said at the beginning, if people want to argue with me on any of these choices or the definition of badass, they can go fuck themselves.
Sounds good.
So the recap, I'm trying to get my papers back in order because I did all this analog. I'm realizing that
Oh,
was
he's
a bad
Amish
move.
too. He's
Yes.
Amish.
Yeah, going by
I
paper.
did use a printer though, so is that
Yeah.
Amish?
So he's
All right,
not less Amish, more Mennonite.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I don't have a typewriter.
You know, I
Although
actually
would
met
use
some
a
Mennonites in
typewriter.
Colombia. When I lived there was a ton of Mennonites down there. It was really weird.
in Colombia.
In Colombia,
South-
Bogota.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Really?
Walking the streets in Bogota where they look like they were way out of place because they look like American hillbillies. That's what they look like walking around the streets. Like
Sure.
overalls and plaid, everything. It was really strange to see. I finally had to ask somebody, but they would speak completely fluent Spanish, but Bogota inflection on the Spanish. But they were Mennonites. They were.
Wow.
Yeah, that horse and carriage ride from Pennsylvania is a real
Oh my
bitch.
god, that's a long ride, man. You don't want
There's
to
a
don't get stuck behind that.
layover in Atlanta too. So.
Yeah, getting over that Darien Gap's a real fucking nightmare.
Those one lane roads, those passes. So top 10 badass filmmakers. So real quick to recap 10 through 6. Number 10 was George Miller, who directed the Mad Max movies. Number 9 was Paul Verhoeven, best known for directing RoboCop and Total Recall, Starship Troopers, movies like that. Number 8 was Alexei Alexander, Palestinian German female director who did Green Street Hooligans back in 2005 and Punisher Warzone in 2008, very underrated movie. Number 7 was Walter Hill, who did he produced the Alien movies and he did films like 48 Hours and stuff like that.
Nice.
And then the last one was number 6, a fellow named Alejandro Jodorowsky, probably the most obscure, I guess, most unknown person on my list, probably on the entire list, Alejandro Jodorowsky, who did a bunch of crazy movies in the 60s and 70s that were like the original midnight movies, and it's he's a wild filmmaker. Also came up with his own, I neglected to say this, he has his own like kind of philosophy, sort of religion type of thing that he wrote a book about and people can follow, and it's all based on like psycho shamanism and magical realism and stuff like that.
I thought it was the Church of the Fawns.
No,
speaking of that-
far cooler, which
speaking
is
of
hard
that-
to do because it's the funds.
So there's actually another female filmmaker other than Penny Marshall.
Isn't that crazy? There's actually like 4 of them.
They
which
let
is
4
wild.
of them do it?
Well, one of them just did Wonder Woman. Yeah, Patty Jenkins.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
Exciting.
we'll go ahead and just talk about number 5.
Cinco.
Number 5.
Because number 5 is a lady named Catherine Bigelow. Anyone know that name? Catherine Bigelow.
Yes, I know. God damn it. What
Was
did
she a
direct?
gigolo?
Yes, I know the name.
Bigelow, the gigolo. No, that's actually not correct.
That's something Robert. Well, no, who was the actor? In
Schneider.
Robert Schneider. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
Rob
you.
Schneider is a stapler in Derpy
Yeah.
Derpy Derpy Derpy.
Yep.
Catherine Bigelow, born in 1951, current filmmaker based out of California, best known these days for making The Hurt Locker and Zero
God
Dark
damn
Thirty.
it.
Yeah, it was on the tip of your brain
I knew
the
it was
whole time.
I knew it was military. I'm like,
Military
oh,
stuff.
fuck, what did she direct?
Military stuff recently, she really blew up with Point Break back in the day.
okay.
which
The
is-
original, right?
Yes, the original, and not
yes.
that horrible. Remakes has been the name of the game tonight.
And it's
All
only
the
because they
remakes are
make
terrible.
money. Anything is from a film adaptation from a book, all that sequels, superhero. That's all they make because it makes money, guaranteed money.
Anything they think has a built-in audience, then they'll go ahead
yeah.
and try to chase after that audience, and then they'll give them crap. That audience is like, we don't want to see this, and then it makes no money, and the studio doesn't learn,
Right.
and they keep trying to do the same
No,
thing.
what made me want to murder people was when the Point Break remake came out, and my brother was like, "Oh, this is just a remake of Fast and Furious."
Yeah.
And
Pretty
Because
much.
Fast and Furious was like
Yeah.
a down-low remake of Point
I
Break.
used to have 7 siblings. I have 6.
Because of that. That'll break up families. The reason why, though, we'll get a little more into in her filmography in a second. The reason why I picked her as a badass filmmaker is because, well, here's a quote. I'll just have her speak for herself. She says, quote, "If there's specific resistance to women making movies, I just choose to ignore that as an obstacle for two reasons. I can't change my gender, and I refuse to stop making movies. It's irrelevant who or what directed a movie. The important thing is that you either respond to it or you don't. There should be more women directing. I think there's just not the awareness that's really possible. It is." This is a quote that could have been said last week, but she said this back in 1990.
Oh, wow. Well, see, because back then Caitlyn Jenner didn't exist to disprove that first point.
Yeah.
And that's where I leave, folks. That silence that you all hear, that is exactly what that comment deserves.
You got to throw those comments out there to see which one's sticking, which one's
sometimes they get an applause break.
Sometimes watching the burn feels better.
Sometimes you get the applause break, and sometimes you get the stare break.
Sometimes it just burns like gonorrhea.
But then you got to enjoy it, though. And sit back
that
and
one got a
yes.
chuckle. Fuck you guys.
So she's been just struggling with the whole, I have tits and a vagina, I want to make a movie, and people are like, no, but she's like, I can make good movies, and they're like, no. So she keeps trying, and she, against all odds, continues to make good movies. She started in the 80s. In 87, she did Near Dark. Has anyone seen that? A vampire movie, really low budget, gritty vampire movie. No. It's super cool. She followed that up with a movie called Blue Steel. Jamie Lee Curtis plays a rookie cop being stalked by Ron Silver, who's a fantastic bad guy. Then 1991 was Point Break, which we were just mentioning. Huge movie. It really helped her get her foot in the door, like in a major way in Hollywood, and really get her choice of roles, her choice of projects. And with that, she made Strange Days, which she co-wrote and co-produced with her at the time husband, and also almost made this list, but I decided to leave him off, James Cameron. They were married for a while, and they worked on this together. And now here's one of the fucked up things. Strange Days came out, didn't make a lot of money, but it was very well received critically. But so many of the reviews are like, James Cameron's vision is amazing, blah, 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 blah. And Catherine Bigelow's like, what the fuck? This is my movie. All the credit went to James Cameron. They got divorced shortly after that. Are they related? I have no idea. I'm just saying.
Yeah, remember that was the thing, because wasn't Hurt Locker up against one of...
yes, now we're coming, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'll leave it
You're
there.
stealing thunder.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We'll skip K9 to Widowmaker because everyone did. All right. 2008, The Hurt Locker comes out, which is it's her war movie made for like under $10 million.
Yeah, and it was amazing.
It's so good. And in 2008, it was nominated for Best Picture and Best Director. At the same year, James Cameron puts out Avatar, and that's nominated for everything as well because it's a technical achievement, beyond measure. But the thing is, the story is like ho hum, whereas The Hurt Locker
it's Fern Gully in live action.
It is. Yeah. It is totally.
It's true.
Fern Gully. That's what it is.
My son caught that. My son watched Avatar at the age. Oh God, he was like 10.
Yeah.
He's like, Papi, this is Fern Gully without the bat.
Yeah, it's the last rainforest, but on another planet.
Yep.
And not saying that's necessarily bad, and James Cameron did a good job with that story, but it's just that we've seen the story a lot.
I hate to say it, the one thing that killed that movie for me, don't get me wrong, I love the movie, it was great, but of all the things that you can come up with, naming a rare unknown element,
what was
come
it?
on, unobtainium. Really?
I hated that so much too. I looked it up, and unobtainium is actually a stupid term that scientists do use for like elements that they don't. Yeah, it's not something he came up with, but he decided to use it though, and that's inexcusable because that is a fucking stupid word.
That's all right. The word is something he didn't come up with. Neither is a plot for Avatar.
Yeah.
Also, Avatar story also came from history. America. It's kind of how America was born.
Well, that's Fern Gully, right? Fern Gully is based on it. It's all. It's a very environmental thing.
Hey, Tach, sorry to interrupt. Can you give him that right there off the table? Thanks.
That's what he's
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah,
it's his little bone.
Get that bone, buddy. That's right. And then obviously they turn to a big story. The Hurt Locker, Avatar. They're up against each other in the Oscars. They're a couple that's been divorced, blah blah blah, and she ends up winning. Hurt Locker wins Best Picture, Best Director. Also, another thing, it's another David Goliath thing because Avatar had all this money. It was super expensive. Hurt Locker was very cheap in comparison. It's a little movie that could type of thing. Also made very low money at the box office too. Actually, The Hurt Locker has two records. One record is that of all the Best Picture winners, it is the lowest grossing Best Picture winner of all time. It made less than $20 million at the box office, which which is a hill of peanuts. That's
damn, I didn't know it made that little
That's
money.
like a failure in today's terms.
For movies,
yeah.
in 2008
That's
terms,
a failure
it was a
in 2008,
failure.
yeah.
But the thing is, though, the expectations were so low.
But
The budget was so low.
What was the budget on that? Yeah.
Less than $5 million, I
Yeah,
think.
so it still
was,
started
it was
still
crazy
pretty good
cheap.
profit.
Yeah. And then the thing is, they're like, well, now it's getting awards buzz, so at least we can build off of that.
Right.
And we can still get benefits from this. Meanwhile, Avatar cost a ton of money and made like $2.7 billion.
Was that a studio film? Who made that?
Hurt Locker? No, I think they got
Independent film?
studios that distribute it, but they had to put the money together themselves
So it's
because
just
people
an
did.
independent film.
It's pretty much an independent film,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. Most movies these days are technically kind of independent.
If you want
Studios
anything,
rarely,
if you want
fund
anything
something.
other than superhero films or anything, it's
Correct.
going to be an independent film. And
Correct, 100%. Based off the Hurt Locker, she got Zero Dark 30 made, which had a lot of acclaim, made a lot of money. Also controversial because it's kind of pro-torture, but that's not a surprise because she worked with the CIA to make the movie. And so obviously the CIA has a long history of like helping and partially funding Hollywood films that present them in a positive light. So a movie that shows torture leading to the capture of Osama bin Laden, CIA is like, hell yeah, we'll help you make this movie. So it's a good movie and it's well made, but the politics of it are a little fucked up.
The CIA, brought to you by Joseph Goebbels.
Yeah, dude, it's truth though. The Nazis knew what they were doing. It's the same way in '79 when the Iranian Revolution and the religious clerics took over. One of the first things they did was burned all the cinemas. They shut down artistic expression. Before the '79 Islamic Revolution, Iran had a thriving movie industry, filmmakers and cinema goers.
Yeah, if you look at
and
Iran,
that's what they shut down immediately.
If you look at the videos of Iran in 75 to 79,
Yeah.
it is ridiculous. It's a metropolis. It's gorgeous.
It's on par with like New York City and Paris and London. It's
Absolutely.
an amazing place.
There was a game that I
Yeah.
saw somebody playing. It was they would show pictures. I think it was like all the pictures were taken in 1971.
Yeah.
Some of the pictures were in Los Angeles. Some of the pictures were in Tehran, and you had to guess which one was where.
And
no one knew.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, what a bummer. What a bummer. It could have been getting so much great culture from there. We still can. She has a movie coming out this year, actually, this summer, called Detroit, which is about the 1967 Detroit riots, which is a crazy story about how an after-hours bar, like when, they still do that these days, bar set up for hospitality service industry people. The bar stay open until 5, 6 in the morning when they're not supposed to. A bunch of cops raided it in Detroit, 67. It spilled onto the street. It got violent. It got so violent, turned into a 5-day riot.
Wow.
And they made a movie about it. Catherine Bigelow made a movie about it. So she's a pretty badass filmmaker out there still doing it,
Hell yeah.
despite the fact that she doesn't have a penis. I don't know how she directs a movie without a penis.
That's probably
she's
why
doing it,
Penny
yeah.
Marshall does so well, because she does have a penis.
Well, it's a giant clit is what it is.
She
She will fuck you with that clit, and then you'll say thank you,
believe
Penny.
that.
I appreciate it very much.
I believe it.
Can we watch A League of Their Own again?
There's no crying inside of me.
So that was your number 5.
Was that said by Rosie O'Donnell? Who said that?
That would be a Rosie O'Donnell or Madonna too. Actually, let's do number 4.
Number 4.
That's some good hazy sunrise there. Number 4. Here we go. I'm going with intellectual badassery here, as a matter of fact. Born July 26, 1928. Died March 7, 1991. The first dead person on our list.
Oh.
Stanley Kubrick.
Okay.
Stanley
Yes.
Kubrick, a name more people will recognize. Made very many popular movies. But did you know he was an average student? Growing up in middle school and high school, he had like a C average student, and it wasn't necessarily because he was dumb, because he had a very high IQ, but it's because he's an artistic. He wasn't interested in what they were teaching. Maybe he was bored by it. That happened to me and other people I know when you're younger.
Sure.
It's trying to teach 30, 40 people one thing at the same time. We were at different speeds or whatever. So he was an underachieving student, and that disappointed his father. But when he showed interest in photography, his dad was like, oh, okay, here's a camera. Go do it. Be a photographer.
That's good. He fed that.
Yes,
that's
because
awesome.
he was like, at least he has something. Be good at this. Kubrick ended up, instead of going to college, he ended up working for a magazine called Look Magazine, and he spent like a decade as their photographer, and he learned a lot about photography, and at the same time exploring other artistic interests, and that's how he started down the path of being a director. So he has a very much just like artistic upbringing going into being a filmmaker.
Yeah, those eccentric types a lot of times don't have good history and education, especially in grade school and high school and things like that. It's rough on them
because they're not interested in like super basic history lessons or whatever. Maybe they should be, but they're not. They're already thinking of other stuff and they want to go do other things.
Let's not forget Einstein didn't do too well through high school.
That is an absolute lie.
He didn't fail math like everybody thinks.
Absolute lie.
He didn't do well in school.
He excelled in school. That is an absolute lie.
Who spread that lie? Who spread that lie?
I don't know.
What's that, Jay? Keep talking. Keep talking. What's that, Jay? What's that?
Luckily nowadays they have classes for those special kids to go and expand their mind.
Yeah, no, that one actually, because we actually got into it on a podcast that I may be appearing on soon. That was a total lie. Einstein was a fucking genius from day one. The guy came up with the theory of relativity. You're going to tell me he got a B in math? No, that is absolute fabrication.
Because the math class was so boring, he wasn't paying attention. He could still have been coming up with smart math stuff.
Yeah, no.
But slacking off in class.
Yeah, no. He excelled in it because that was part of his upbringing, was that you will excel in this. You will pay attention.
Or else we will beat you with this thin rod.
There's a new, not to side tangent too much, but there's a new show coming out about Einstein.
Yeah.
On
it's
Netflix,
out already,
I think, isn't it?
No, on Nat Geo?
Nat Geo, I think, is doing it. Yeah.
Damn it.
Ooh, we actually get that one, I think.
Do we?
I think. We get like all infomercials and Disney Channel, because we have the Uverse family. So it's the Disney Channel and all infomercials. And we're like, this is ridiculous.
Well, I think Nat Geo is the one with the Einstein show. Yeah.
I think that's the one we do get, because that could be family
There you go.
involved.
And I think he's a cannibal. Don't they present him as a cannibal in that show? I think.
Come on, kids. Let's
Vampire
watch the
Hunter
cannibal
or something?
show.
I mean, I don't have Nat Geo, so I don't know.
That was one of those things that I was researching for a Twisted 10 podcast I was doing too. So that may be coming up too. We may get into that.
I'm looking. I'm just quickly reading to see if I can find that.
As far as Kubrick goes,
Yeah, let's get back to Kubrick.
Another thing, he said wasn't so smart in school, but yet, hey, eventually worked for the space program, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. We can tie all that in. I'm going to go into that.
I'm kidding. I don't believe that.
Well, first he made a few movies with Kirk Douglas, Paths of Glory and Spartacus, well received, but then he ended up butting heads with Kirk Douglas, so he made a few movies with Peter Sellers, Lolita, and Dr. Strangelove. He tried to write a straight up thriller about the impending atomic war, because it's the Cold War, etc., and he could not write the movie without laughing. He thought it was so absurd and so funny, the idea of all these men arguing about all this shit that could lead to a war, and that's how he came up with the comedy Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. It's a fantastic movie too. But then, yes, 1964, he's already working on an idea that will become 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is already very different from all the movies he's made before, right? So in 64, he meets up with Arthur C. Clarke. They have the idea together. Arthur C. Clarke writes the book at the same time as they work on the screenplay together. So if anyone who watches the movie, like at the end of the movie, it's very cryptic, and it's the whole Stargate sequence and the birth of the star baby, the next evolution of man. If you have problems understanding what's happening there, read the book. It's literally like spelled out in the book, the scenes, but it's being described what's happening. And the book even takes it another step forward. And it's actually a very interesting story about, aliens forcing the evolution of humans throughout time. It kind of ties into the whole Prometheus thing, like we were talking about earlier.
Love it.
It's a big theory right now too, as well. It's very topical.
Jay, I stand corrected, buddy. I'm a big enough boy to admit when I'm wrong. Time magazine article that I just found does cite Einstein was actually so advanced that he was passing trigonometry and high-end calculus in like the 8th grade.
There you go.
Well
done, sir.
It's high on this throne.
Well done.
But in 7th grade, it was a slacker.
It?
Yeah. Everybody's like slacker in 7th grade.
Everyone, we're looking at the 7th
My
grade
daughter
report
won't
card.
be.
They forgot to look at the 8th grade one. Now, while he was making 2001, part of the reason why the movie is so well revered and successful is because he got a lot of NASA access. He got access to their R&D stuff, and he got to see all the different tourist designs, all the deep space designs that they were obviously weren't built at that time. We're like, well, this is how we think we could go with some of that. So a lot of the models that they built for the movie was based on the NASA stuff that he had access to.
Nice.
After 2001: A Space Odyssey, he made a movie called Barry Lyndon, which is it takes place in like the 1700s and 1800s, and he wanted to shoot the movie with natural lighting. So if it was shot outside, you want to set up lights, it'd be shot with the sun. If it was set inside, they had to build a fire and put candles everywhere, and the scenes would be lit with the candlelight.
Practical lighting,
but they didn't have lenses that could capture those lights. So he got NASA to build him a lens for his camera that could capture the light.
Really?
So he could film scenes by candlelight.
That's awesome.
How could he get NASA to do so much, to give him access to R&D, and how could he get them to make him lenses, make him camera
faked
work?
the moon landing.
He did not fake the moon landing.
I don't believe that at all.
That is absurd.
I don't believe it at all.
That is absurd.
I
He did
work
not
at
fake the moon
SpaceX.
landing.
Of course, I don't believe it.
He shot the fake moon landing footage is what he did. Okay, he didn't fake the moon landing. He shot the footage.
Did you see the movie about that with Rupert Grint?
Who? What?
Rupert Grint?
Rupert Grint from The King of Comedy? That's The King of Comedy.
No.
That's Robert De Niro's character in The King of Comedy. Rupert?
Rupert, he's from Harry Potter?
Oh, no. I'm thinking, no, they get Rupert. No, I don't.
I was
what
going
movie?
with Rupert from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
May I use the bathroom, sir?
Yeah.
Halt the podcast.
Rupert. The one where, didn't they make a movie about that, right? A couple years ago?
Yeah. It's more of a satire.
It's what's his name? The redheaded fella. That's what you're talking about.
yeah.
Well, what he did, he worked with
We call
NASA.
those gingers, by the way.
They are.
That's racist, but go ahead.
It is a little weird. If you look at Stanley Kubrick, if you look at pictures of him when he's first starting out to make 2001: A Space Odyssey, he's very thin. He's always wearing suits, clean cut, clean shaven. After 2001: A Space Odyssey is over, he has gained weight. He has stopped wearing suits. He is looking like a slob, beard. The stress of trying to keep the secret of making that moon landing footage, because they didn't think they didn't know about the cameras, right? They figured the cameras, they may work, they may not transmission wise. They knew the moon landing stuff is all real. That all really happened, but they were worried. It was a publicity thing. It wasn't about actually going to the moon. It was just about beating the Russians. And if they can get to the moon, but then not transmit the footage, how does anyone believe them? So they had to have a backup, a contingency, and that was where Stanley Kubrick comes in. He makes the footage for NASA secretly while he's making 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then that's why people now, they look at the footage like, oh, there's missing this and the shadow and this and that there, all these things, because it is faked footage. The moon landing actually happened, though. I am not saying yes, 100%.
No, I believe yes,
Yeah,
100%.
so we're on the same page.
Yes,
there.
of course. Same shade.
Unlike your compatriot SBK.
Yeah, no, he believes that the entire landing, that's all fake 100%.
He did a bit on it. I don't even know if it was a bit. He did a full song on the moon landing being fake. It was hilarious.
It's a great song. It's a fun song. After that, he was looking, it took so long, it was so much stress of doing all that. He wanted something quick and dirty and mean, so he optioned the rights to A Clockwork Orange. Orange, very, very violent, very intense movie. As a matter of fact, he himself got death threats from people after there was a bunch of copycat crimes throughout the UK. So he himself had the movie pulled from theaters, and it was banned in the UK. Not necessarily banned by the government, but banned by him. He was like, I don't want anyone, because he was living in the UK at the time.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone seeing this movie. And it wasn't available in the UK until he died in around 2000s when they put it out finally for people to be able to see it. So for the longest time, Clockwork Orange was banned in the country that it was made.
Oh, wow.
He went on since then to make The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, his career is extensive, and his movies are towering works of art that almost all of them too, most of them well received when they come out, but like down the line is when they really get stature, when people really examine them, look into them. So he is the intellectual giant of the group. He is, that's why he's the number 4 badass filmmaker.
Sure.
Mr. Stanley Kubrick. Number 3. Number 3 goes by the nickname Bloody Sam. His name is Sam Peckinpah. Born 1925, February 21st, 1925, dead December 28, 1984. Bloody Sam is known for making tough, ultra-violent movies back before that was a thing. The Wild Bunch was his big movie, which came out in 69. And in The Wild Bunch, he used a lot of, for example, of his take on showing violence in movies that people weren't doing. He came up with the idea to put double squibs on people. So in movies, people get shot and they get squibbed out the front. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
In The Wild Bunch, he has people with squibs on the front and the back. So then when they get shot, you can see the exit wounds as well. And when he was doing that in 1969 and showing that to people in theaters, people were losing their minds.
Thinking somebody really got shot?
Yeah, well, at the level of violence, they weren't expecting so much blood and so much like this is getting too real for audiences. Now, if people watch The Wild Bunch, it's like, yeah, whatever. People are getting mowed down. But in 1969, that was messing people up.
Squibs on both sides is Nickelodeon terms now.
It is now, right? Yeah, they go squib crazy over there. His let me see. I want to blah blah blah. He was a trouble. He was a problem from the very beginning. He skipped high school a lot to do cowboying stuff at his a relative's ranch. So like basic quotes cowboying stuff. Basic wrangling and cow things. And I don't know what the freaking. I'm from New York. I don't know what cowboys
boy
do.
things too.
I'm from
boy
Oklahoma.
Things.
So
I know
what's cowboying stuff then?
I assume it's hanging out with Sam Elliott.
Mud.
Cows. Tractors.
He did stuff with mud and cows and tractors and hay. Yeah, that's what he did.
Guns, fishing.
When he was supposed to be in school. Also, he got kicked off his football team, his junior varsity football team in high school for fighting, and had to finish out high school in military academy. He's that type of guy. And then he ended up developing. First he went to the Marines, joined the Marines, 43. So it's like right at the end of World War II. He was part of a repatriating program. Technically, he didn't see any combat, but he did still see a bunch of violence that really fucked him up.
Sure.
And there was that time we started frequenting a lot of bars in China, and he developed a very gnarly drinking problem that pretty much took his life several decades later, on top of other drugs as well. So his very violent and volatile nature, on top of all the drug use, is what birthed Bloody Sam. So while he was also an artistic guy who wanted to make movies and entertain people, even in a very violent way, still wanted to entertain people, he was also ruining personal relationships left and right, and just goddamn mess. There's a legend around him. I was trying to find it online. I guess I just don't know the right search terms, but there's a legend about how he got kicked off one movie as a director. So he stole the film, the actual footage. He stole all the footage and he took it back to his ranch, and he holed up drunk as hell, because in his final days, he was never not drunk, and he had guns everywhere. He was a huge gun lover, and he was like, you want this footage, you come and get it and you see what happens. And they had to work out a deal with him to let him finish the movie and work on it again so they can get the goddamn footage back that they already spent millions of dollars on.
Who's the guy now that is a huge gun advocate, has his own ranch, he's eccentric and crazy, and
Ted Nugent?
Ted Nugent, yes, thank you. So he's that version. He's Ted Nugent then. That's basically it.
He is, yeah, except I think he's like Nugent, but if Nugent went off the deep end like he should, like he needs to, and finally really do himself in. Sam Peckinpah's other movies also include 1971 Straw Dogs. Anyone hear of this one? Dustin Hoffman, Straw Dogs.
Yeah, it sounds, I remember hearing about
Straw Dogs is fucked up. Like if you watch Straw Dogs now, like The Wild Bunch. If you watch The Wild Bunch back then, it was like, this is so violent, and now you're like, yeah, it's violent, but it's not really blowing me away. If you watch Straw Dogs now, you'd be like, fuck this movie. It is intense. There's a crazy rape in there. There's real visceral violence. It's a home invasion movie. Dustin Hoffman marries a British girl. They move to the British countryside where the local tough dudes, they're like, look at this dandy fop over here with his glasses, because he's like a writer or a teacher or something. So the whole movie is all this tension building about how they're like, we're the real men, and you're now these days, like, you're the cuck, you're the better cuck that we're gonna push around and shit like that. And they push him so far that finally at the end of the movie they invade him, and they're trying to I guess they're going to try to kill him and take his wife, and they're defending the house. So they do the whole boiling oil on the stove to throw on people. They set up a bear trap to catch someone right on the head. And it is a wild
Matchbox cars on the floor.
Home Alone.
It is Home Alone. It's the end of Skyfall is what it is.
Did you say dandy fop?
Yeah.
Total dandy fop. Yeah.
What? I've never heard that term.
Isn't that a derogatory term for a gay person?
Yeah, it is. It's like a British old school term for, because that's how they would view him, because it's a whole we're old country guys that like to drink, and Dustin Hoffman's like, well, I'm the little wormy guy with the glasses who likes to read. I don't want any trouble, guys. That type of thing.
Gotcha.
So he's a total dandy fop. Yeah. So Sam Peckinpah, Bloody Sam, also did Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. Fantastic, very violent, very weird movies from the 70s. And Bloody Sam, he's an interesting dude who then died a very lonely, sad death from alcoholism and other stuff. So there you go. That was your number 3.
All right.
Moving on to number 2.
Number
two is this fellow named John Huston. John Huston, born August 5th, 1906, dead August 28th, 1987. Before he was a filmmaker, he was an amateur boxer as a teenager. He was a reporter, a short story writer, a portrait artist in Paris. He was a cavalry rider in Mexico in his 20s and a documentary filmmaker in World War II, which is when he started getting into making movies. In the 30s, he started working with his dad, Walter Huston, who was in New York as a stage actor, and then both of them went back to Los Angeles in the 40s to work together. He put his dad in a movie called The Treasure of the Sierra Madre with Humphrey Bogart, which is a classic movie now. People love it. It came out in 1948. He got his dad a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for that movie. He got himself Best Director, Best Picture. I think he got Best Screenplay. It was a huge deal. And it is one of my favorite movies. It's also a big influence on There Will Be Blood, if anyone's a fan of that movie. It makes for a really interesting double feature there. In 1950, he came out with a movie called The Asphalt Jungle, which is a movie about criminals and them going out to, do jobs and stuff. But the notable thing about this movie, it's the first movie really to show criminals as like people. And not like the bad guy, the evil element. It's like, no, your protagonists are criminals, and they're just people going about their day-to-day business. Their day-to-day business just happens to be committing crimes.
Just happens to be killing people, yes.
Also, Marilyn Monroe's first serious film, and people loved her in it. So it was kind of a big break for her that people could see her in a different light, not just comedy back in the day. 1951, right after that, he did an adaptation of The Red Badge of Courage. The Red Badge of Courage, he directed that entire movie on horseback because it had like a cast of hundreds and hundreds because it's a Civil War set movie, right? So he had to direct battle scenes. So he felt the need to direct every day, show up on horseback and roll around, be elevated above everyone and talk down to people. I'm like, this is how we're making this movie.
I just see him riding around like Robin Williams on a horse.
Yes,
in Night of the Museum,
but real, much more pretentious and dicky about it. And actually, the movie ended up being a big problem. A lot of problems with the studio. They took it away from him. They cut out like 20 minutes. He ended up disowning it, moving on to another movie. But there's a great book that came out in 1955 called Picture by Lady Lillian Rose. And I would recommend it. People like reading. It's a fantastic, fascinating read about the entire production. And there's tons of stories from the top down involving everyone, all the crazy shenanigans. And John Huston's only a part of it. But the whole horseback thing is...
That's awesome. Hey, Tach.
Ridiculous.
Chris doesn't know us very well, does he? We don't read. Well, not around these parts here.
Yeah, but he got a bunch of listeners, though.
I know.
I've been doing cowboy stuff.
Yeah,
it's boat cowboy and stuff.
I do cow stuff and boy stuff.
It involves mud.
The two guys that work with the two space programs, now the one of them read. Yeah, that's what you want, folks.
Not enough numbers in the reading is what's going on there. He was also an actor in Chinatown. He also directed Annie, which I find hysterical. The original 1982 Annie.
That movie's so great. It still holds up. I swear to God.
And he directed it.
You just got Andrea's attention with that one, I'm telling you.
There we go. And
Andrea's actually been asleep this entire time until right now.
That's so mean.
It's
I take
Pavlovian.
back the dinner I made you guys. Give it back. Right now. Here's a bucket.
Oh, that's disgusting. There Will Be Blood. Back to that movie. Not only was it an influence on the directing of it, but the Daniel Day-Lewis played Daniel Plainview, and he had that very specific way of speaking. It was like, I drink your milkshake. I am Daniel Plainview. He had that voice. He is doing John Huston. He's doing a John Huston impression the whole time in mannerisms, the way he speaks.
It would be Daniel Day-Lewis to do that.
Yes. Yeah. And to the point where Angelica Huston is John Huston's daughter, and I saw a video interview with Angelica Huston after like a screening of the movie, and they're like, what did you think of There Will Be Blood? And she was like, it was weird seeing my father on screen. That was very bizarre. And she said it in a way like I didn't appreciate it. Like she wasn't happy about it. Yeah. She was like, that was strange. I didn't like it too much. But that's the influence. That was John Huston. He is enough of a towering figure that he then factors into a completely fictional thing like There Will Be Blood on the side like that, and he's still a big influence. So that's your number 2, which finally brings us to number 1.
Uno!
Number one.
This guy's still alive. Born September 5th, 1942 in Munich, Germany. I am talking about Werner Herzog. Do you guys know Werner Herzog?
I know the name.
Oh, we go way back.
Do you go way back?
Yes.
You should introduce me.
Most of us know him as Vern from the Ernest movies.
Hey, Vern, it's Ernest. So when he's looking at the camera, Werner Herzog is holding the camera.
Yeah.
Man.
Obviously.
Started at filmmaking way back in the 80s.
I love those Ernest movies, man. The Werner Herzog is a filmmaker and a documentarian, but he has also crossed over into pop culture because he has a very specific way of speaking with his accent and his syntax. So he's done like voice work on The Simpsons, Rick and Morty, The Boondocks, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, that's where I recognize the name from because of all the voiceover work.
Yes.
I was like, wait, I know I've seen that name written.
If you've heard of a German guy who talks like this, that would be Werner Herzog. And he has, and also his personality is very hysterical because he has this whole thing about nature and how nature is like the overriding force of everything, and nature will eventually destroy us all. So a lot of his work reflects that in a very hysterical way. And here's all right. So I have all my notes here on this guy. I have a lot of notes on Werner Herzog. I don't want to really cut them down. In 1971, he was making a movie called Aguirre, The Wrath of God, and it was one of his first big movies with this German actor, Klaus Kinski. He ended up making a bunch of movies with this guy, Klaus Kinski. He was a very volatile, insane man who was also a great actor, and they just happened to make magic together, right? So they're making this movie in Peru. Werner Herzog had to get to Peru, so he was going to get on this flight, Lanza Flight 508. His reservation was canceled due to a last-minute change in the itinerary. It wasn't his choice to not be on the plane. That plane was struck by lightning and disintegrated.
Wow.
That plane that he tried to get on, and they're like, no, you can't get on this plane. But there was still a survivor, someone named Julian Kepke, and that person free fell from the disintegrated plane, hit the ground, lived.
Okay.
What?
I think I found the twist.
That's a conspiracy.
Oh, you think that's a conspiracy?
I think that's it. Well, you don't have to tell us now. We can wait till the end.
Well, let me just finish up with saying, long haunted by that event, Werner Herzog, 30 years later, made a movie about that called Wings of Hope that came out in 2000 about that event. The plane got struck by lightning, disintegrated, someone fell out of the sky, lived. He made a movie about it. Not on that plane he should have been, though. It's like Seth MacFarlane almost was on the September 11th flight.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the exact same thing.
Spooky as hell.
And God, he didn't. Can we take a moment and have silence for that?
The fact that he's still around.
Yes.
Yes. Thank goodness. I'm actually a fan. One of his crazier movies, though, Aguirre, Wrath of God is a wild movie, but one of his crazier ones is this film called Fitzcarraldo. And it's the one that I hold up as being like, he's done a lot of stuff that makes him a badass. First off, he had a similar thing. We talked about this with another filmmaker where he was in Germany. He grew up in Germany, born there in 42. What was happening in Germany in 42, 43? They were getting bombed the fuck out of them. So he's another one where like his neighbors, their houses were disintegrating around him, and people he knew one day were gone the next. They had to move to a village to get away from everything. In that village, he had no running water, no toilet, no telephone. He didn't use a telephone until the age of 17. He didn't know movies even existed until the age of 12 when a traveling projectionist brought film to his tiny little village town and set up a movie for everyone. So he already had like a long way to go to get to being a filmmaker. On that road, he discovered traveling by foot. He loves to travel on foot. He went all around the world. He didn't bother learning English until he moved to England when he was like in his 20s. It's like, I guess now I better learn some fucking English since I'm here. Now he's, like I said, he's doing voiceover work on The Simpsons and Rick and Morty. So obviously it paid off for him. He did this movie called Fitzcarraldo. Fitzcarraldo is a movie about a guy who wants to bring opera to the Amazon jungle, to the people of South America. In order to do that, he has to raise money. The only way he can think of raising money is to become a rubber baron because of all the rubber trees that are available. But he only finds one plot of trees available, and it's on this part of the Amazonian River that's inaccessible. The only way to get to it is you have to climb a mountain. He's not trying to climb a mountain. He's trying to get all the rubber on a boat. So he has to get the boat over a mountain. So the plot of the movie involves this guy getting natives, South American natives to Amazonian natives to help him drag a boat over the mountain to get to the other side of the river. Now, since this is the 70s and it's before CGI, in order to get the special effect of dragging a boat over a mountain, he had to actually take a boat and drag it over a mountain and film it. They did it for real. They set up a whole pulley system.
Yeah, Daniel pulled up a picture in studio.
It is wild. There's a documentary called Burden of Dreams that's about the making of this movie.
Hey, Tach.
That's
not the fake part, I think. I think that one's real.
Oh,
there's a photo of it. So
Is
I
he
think
like
it's okay.
looking all this stuff up?
No, I don't know.
He's the research department. And yes, he totally, that is real. He dragged that boat. As a matter of fact, one of the people that they hired died. One of the Amazonian locals died trying to get this boat over because like a pulley system broke and the boat slid back and it crushed the dude. It was really bad.
That's some bad juju right there.
It is bad. No,
that's not
the
good.
whole set was riddled with bad juju. At another point, before they even got there, the natives like they revolted against him and his crew, and they took all his equipment, they put it in a circle, and they burned his whole set down. And he had to leave South America, go back, get more money, convince people to give him more money so he can go back and try filming again. They're like, you want to do this again? He's like, yes, I want to do it again. And the whole thing's shot like on location in the Amazon, and it is an insane, really well done movie. And he also did. All right, two more things that he did, and then we're gonna wrap it up. He has a filmmaker friend named Errol Morris who wanted to make documentaries, but this guy kept coming up with ideas and then never finishing on the idea. So he told him, if you make a movie, he was working on one called about pet cemeteries. If you finish this documentary about pet cemeteries, I will eat my shoe publicly at your red carpet event. I will literally eat my shoe. Errol Morris is like, okay, he makes the movie Gates of Heaven. It comes out in 1978 at the red carpet event. They have a table set up with a boiling pot of water. Werner Herzog, he walks up there with a boot. He drops it in. He boils it for a while. He takes it out. He cuts off a piece of leather and he eats it. And he starts eating his shoe right there. In the
Oh, that's cool.
This guy's movie.
Charlie Chaplin style.
Yeah, 100%. He has since come up with, in 2009, the Rogue Film School. If you like Werner Herzog and his approach to filmmaking, you can be under his tutelage, I guess you can say. But it's not your average film school. Here is a direct quote. Courses include the art of lockpicking, traveling on foot, the exhilaration of being shot at unsuccessfully, the athletic side of filmmaking, the creation of your own shooting permits, the naturalization of bureaucracy, guerrilla tactics, self-reliance. He also says for students, he wants, quote, I prefer people who have worked as bouncers in a sex club or have been wardens in the lunatic asylum. You must live life in its very elementary forms. The Mexicans have a very nice word for it, pura vida. It doesn't mean just purity of life, but the raw, stark, naked quality of life. And that's what makes young people more into a filmmaker than academia.
That's a beautiful quote.
He's very much that type of dude.
I really want one of his classes to be how to convince a second group of savages to help you move a boat after the first group of savages
That's
burns everything to the ground.
That's the first class you get when you show up, man. Like, that's how you do it.
That's guerrilla filmmaking.
It is guerrilla filmmaking. And he's also made a bunch of great documentaries. Grizzly Man is probably his most famous one back in 2005. He has a couple out now on Netflix I recommend. One called Lo and Behold, and it's about the internet. And it's funny that he made a documentary about the internet because like I said earlier, the first time he used a telephone was at the age of 17. He is not technologically driven at all. So when he approaches the internet, he has weird questions about it. And he did another movie that's a documentary called Into the Inferno, which is all about volcanoes around the world. And he gets great footage. And again, he's just asking amazing questions.
That's awesome.
An amazing guy.
Those are on Netflix now?
Yes, both of those.
Nice.
It's funny he didn't see a phone until he was 17 because most 17-year-olds now haven't seen a phone at all.
Those type of phones, they have computers.
That's a good point.
Where do you play Angry Birds on this thing?
Where's the porn?
How do you get Tinder?
Give them a rotary phone and just watch the confusion set in.
How do I swipe? Rotary. No, get one of those
phone,
ones with the handle on the side.
Yeah.
You gotta speak into it. Hold the one up to your ear.
You got to turn it. Yeah, if you had a friend with 2 9s in his phone number, he just wasn't your friend.
Yeah, that takes way too long.
forever.
Forget about it. It's easier to just walk over there. So there you go. I love Werner Herzog. That's your number one, and that's your entire
Holy
team.
shit, man.
That is
okay,
fantastic.
when do you breathe?
Now when it's over.
Chris has got a hell of a presence.
I'm a huge movie buff and all this kind of shit, but goddamn, dude.
Yeah, that's what I do, man.
I thought I was a movie buff.
Yeah.
I love movies, man. And
Chris came.
A lot of information out there, and I was trying to get it all in there.
Chris came, he saw, he conquered.
Trying to make
Kicked
it
its
impression.
ass.
Yeah.
That's right.
Dude, that was fucking fantastic. So it's cool. It's really good to see a very animated person, a guest who's coming into a Twisted 10, because you don't always see that. Not to knock any guest we've ever had, because everybody's been great so far.
Sure.
But to see the research, you aren't reading the entire thing. No, to see
There's some passion behind it.
yeah,
Huge
to see
passion.
yeah, to see the passion is so feeling. But yeah, the level of passion that you bring to guest hosting the show is great.
I appreciate that. Thank
your
you.
knowledge is in depth. You aren't reading the whole time. You had most of that stuff in your head.
Oh, I did.
Just looking up for footnotes.
I did read those papers a lot ahead of time, though. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
now I'm dying to know.
Oh, very good.
Do we want to take guesses around the room on what was the?
Because I didn't explain to you. I did throw in a twist. One of the things I was saying was a conspiracy theory, but I presented it as fact. So they said the whole thing about the plane being struck by lightning and the person surviving, that was the conspiracy.
Anybody else want to take a guess during all those stories at what was fake?
I'm going to say John Huston writing cavalry in Mexico.
All right. Yeah, because he did. I did say he was a cavalry rider in Mexico. I just threw that in there. Yeah.
Andrea?
Oh, when you said that, I thought that was
You thought the same one as well?
I think she chimed in.
Our guests?
There was one I can't remember that I thought, but I forgot already.
Horseback the whole time.
John Huston riding on horseback the whole time. Okay, that's another good guess.
Jennifer, what about you?
Oh, she was on her phone. She was
horseback the whole time.
She's too cute. She doesn't have to answer.
She's waiting for the next show to start.
For more information on that, Jennifer is in costume, in cosplay here in studio for an episode of Living Podcariously coming up next. So stay tuned or tune over to that show for that.
Yes. But I thought it would jump out to you guys, as a matter of fact, with the whole space background. Stanley Kubrick directing the moon landing footage.
That's the one. That's the one, because I thought you were catching it, and I thought you were about to call
I thought
it
you guys
out.
were going to jump out on that
I
one.
was confused. I was like, why does he keep saying that?
That's the one that I could remember.
You sold it well.
He did it.
You sold it well, sir.
It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite conspiracies, though. I want to believe that he did. I don't think he did, but I want to believe that he did.
I totally thought Tach was about to call it out right
I thought he was going to say.
know about it.
And I was going to be like, yep, you got me. That was all bullshit. But there's also, like, if you watch The Shining, which came out in 1980, there's an interesting theory that The Shining is really this, like, veiled confession to directing the footage. Because the kid's wearing, like, an Apollo 11 shirt.
Right.
And there's, like, a lot of little hints in there that speaks to, like, space agey type thing. It's a weird conspiracy. I think it's fun.
It's funny that you guys think that's a twist. That's just what happened.
Fair enough. That's why you didn't pick up on it.
The Earth is also flat. I mean, obviously.
Ari Dab's gay.
But it also means someone thought of that.
Dear God.
I just want to know what's on the other side of the Earth, though.
Dear God, I'm not that guy.
Someone thought of a plane and lived.
So that's real?
That's real. He made a documentary about it. Wings of Hope. Check it out. It came out in 2000. Wings of Hope. That really
Another
happened.
date night.
Lands of Flight 508. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So, all right, fantastic list. Let's get some plugs out of the way.
I'm impressed, sir. Holy shit.
How can our listeners find you and find your podcast, and maybe give it another plug again about what your podcast is all about?
Cinema Crespodiso is all about movies, but it's also about TV and pop culture and whatever we feel like talking about. It's tangent crazy. We're drinking, smoking over there like wild.
Perfect.
So you can listen to it at chriscrespo.com, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, however people like listening to the podcast. Cinema Crespodiso is this show. And also I do trivia all around the Orlando area, so people can if you find me on Facebook or whatever, I'm always posting when I'm doing trivia shows around town.
I do also want to add that your level of energy that you brought to the Twisted 10 is every show that, at least the 10 or so that I've listened to.
That's what we do.
Your guys' level of energy is just fucking on point in that entire show. It's very entertaining.
We try to make a high energy show because it's what I like to listen to. So that's why there's all the segments and music and different things going on, and then we make sure to take a break in the middle too, so we can recharge and all that. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
All right, so for more, we're going to put all the show notes, all the links in the show notes for Chris Crespo and Cinema Crespodiso, as well as his trivia. You just have to email those to me or what have you. Yeah. But yeah, check him out. I highly, highly encourage anybody that's looking for another good, entertaining, comedy-style-based podcast, especially one around movies and entertainment. Go check out Cinema Crespodiso.
And Cinema Crespodiso is just fun to say.
Yeah, right. It's alliterative. It rolls off the tongue. It's just hard to spell.
You gotta learn it.
It's phonetic.
You have to learn it.
Of course, we're saying that. Our other show is Podcariously. How do you spell that? Yeah. Well,
or define it. Yeah, like what is a Crespodiso? I don't know. I have no idea. Don't worry about it.
All right, Andrea, where can our listeners find you?
Brent Allen Salon and Day Spa.
Oh yeah. And how much of a discount do our listeners get up there?
I don't know. Why don't you come in this week and I'll give you a free blow dry.
Ooh, that could have changed.
Dry. Blow dry. Dry, she said.
Yes. Mouth hugs all around. All right.
Yeah, buddy.
Jay, where can our folks see you in the next few weeks?
You can catch me at Copper Chimney in Palm Bay Saturday, June 24th. I will be performing there, co-headlining with Duncan J. Also, catch me guesting on another podcast, Here's What's Wrong With You, hosted by Christopher Neil Walker.
Yes.
Season 2, Episode 3 was just released the other day. Had a lot of fun recording that. Chris is a good friend of mine. And go check that one out wherever you get your podcast from.
I believe, is he next week for Twisted 10?
I believe he's coming up very shortly.
It's either next week or a couple weeks
It's either
out.
next week or the week after.
I'll find out right now. I'm looking right now.
Well, while Tach's looking that up, Facebook.com/TheTwisted10. Send us an email to the show. That's thetwisted10@gmail.com. If you have a recommendation for a show, like last week's episode brought to you by Jay Alvarez, was none other than one of our listeners that emailed in the idea, contacted us on Facebook, and suggested it. And Jay ran with it.
I had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah.
Yes, Christopher Neil Walker next week.
Next week.
Yep.
Christian Walker's next week. Don't miss that one. Don't miss it.
I won't.
All right. You didn't catch my cue. I pointed. All right. Okay. I guess is that about it for us?
Oh, be sure to check out the
Take two. What the fuck just happened?
She fell off
the
stage.
upcoming episode of Get Out Penny.
Yeah, that's right. It's coming out here pretty soon.
Soon we got Jay. Hopefully, yeah. We got to finish up some recording. But
All right.
So
I'm gonna work on it. I got next 3 days off, so this week.
Check out the upcoming show of Get Out Penny.
Yeah, the
Perfect.
latest episode will be out hopefully this week. Yes.
Well, very perfect. All right.
You can also follow us on Twitter at TheTwisted10.
Yep. And lastly, but most certainly not the most important, but is the most important.
He's proposing.
Our face.
This is it.
We're having. No, I'm not proposing. Stop.
Okay.
We're setting up a Patreon for the Twisted 10.
Yes.
So for the listeners out there that are interested in pledging some donations monthly, $1, $5, $10.
It'll be up now.
It'll be up when they hear it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Go check out that. We've got different rewards and different incentives. That includes literally sitting in with the cast during an episode, coming up with your own episode, letting us proxy write it for you. If you don't want to get on mic, that's fine. If you want to get on mic, hey, you can buy your way in. We are buyable. I'm just saying.
Some of us more than others.
I'm cheap.
It's funny. Most podcasts are like, we're not going to sell out. We will absolutely sell out.
You're goddamn right.
No problem with that.
The next Twisted 10 is the top 10 flowers found in Florida. From Patreon.
NPR?
Sure. No, I'm just kidding. That's not Christopher Neil Walker's podcast that he's coming to host.
Shit, you know, if he listens to this, it probably will be. He's just going to... You guys don't know Chris like I do. He'll hear that and like, well, fuck, now I have to. Just to mess with him. I don't know how you guys knew that.
Number 7, roses.
Well, that's awesome. Again, Chris, thank you so much
Thanks for
for
having
coming
me, guys.
and
I
doing
really
this.
appreciate it. It's very
This was
cool.
fun.
Yeah, dude, of course.
Very nice setup you have here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We highly encourage our listeners to go check out Cinema Crespodiso. It's a fantastic podcast. All right, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, guys. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening to The Twisted 10. I'm Adam.
I'm Tach.
I'm Andrea Joy.
I'm Jay Alvarez.
And our guest.
Chris Crespo.
And for our two friends that are in studio, Daniel and Jennifer, thank you guys for coming up. We appreciate it. All right, guys. See you next week.
Wait. Don't hit stop on the episode just yet. Hey, this is Tach from the podcast you just listened to. And if you enjoy living podcariously or The Twisted 10, then you're going to love my new podcast I co-host with my lifelong buddy, Ron Caniff. It's called You're 40, Now What? It's about the trials and tribulations of turning 40 and just getting through life. So check it out on iTunes, Google Play Music, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks. Now go give someone a mouth hug.